Hello, and welcome to episode 227 of Flix and a Six, a 50% operational battle station. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo. With me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the history man, Alessandro Biolsi. Say hello, Al.
You fabulous thing.
Well, I adore you. On this week's episode, we've got the Mickey 17 trailer, Archimedes engine, and closing the book, all before diving into our flick of the week, Furiosa. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
We are drinking what I believe to be pronounced Czig Meister Falconer.
Jury's out.
Jury's out, although, to the best of my understanding, those
That's how those two letters normally in
those Czech type languages with the CZ is usually how that would be pronounced. This is 4.9% alcohol by volume. It's an IPA. It's a hazy session IPA. This is a pint, which we love.
Yeah. Pints.
It's from Czig Meister Brewing, Master Your Craft. It's from Hackettstown, New Jersey. And we got a little story. This is the flagship series, Our Tale of the Falconer. A master of falconry is devoted to the craft, patiently developing a bond with a falcon and training it to hunt animals with poise and precision. The falconer harnesses the wild bird, only to let it loose to fulfill its purpose. So it is with our hazy session IPA. We pack it with hop flavor and set it off with punchy notes of citrus to let your taste buds soar.
Do I have to give the beer back to them afterwards?
They're pretty strong on wanting you to recycle too. So
all right, okay, I can see. I can connect the dots there.
Yeah,
I like it. Falconry is an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean it's. I feel like typically a thing of wealth, which that's fine. Whatever, if you have it, more power to you. But I mean, listen, we have pets, we have dogs, we have cats. You
Sure,
might have a chinchilla or a ferret.
I just think the idea of one person doing this is bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And then, furthermore, the idea of enough people have done it that there's a name for it.
Falconry?
Yeah.
The Art of Falcons.
Yeah. The Art of... Who's the Captain Falcon? That's what I want to know. Oh, boy. Shall we taste this beer?
Sure.
Cheers.
Hang on. That really is a delightful smell.
Oh, my goodness. I can't smell it at all, but it tastes so good.
That's a lie. When you open it, you're like, oh.
Oh, no, it literally sprayed me in the face.
With smell.
With smell.
Sorry, with aroma.
It had distance and spread. Oh, that's delightful. From what I can tell, it's very. I if it's not obvious by my voice, I'm sick.
Yeah.
I'm working through it.
So which one? Which of the little fuckers did it to you?
And Elio sneezed directly in my face, like directly in my open eye.
It really caught me by surprise when you sent that text because you love your sons. You're a good father. And that's the first time I've heard you refer to one of them in such a way.
I mean, yeah, it's true. It's true. It had to be like I truly feel that was the moment where I was infected. And then like 8 hours later, I was like,
yep. Classic.
Well, that's that. Is that moss growing in my throat? And then it got worse. And then not last night, but the night before, a lemon and a pickle came knocking on my door.
Wow. I
went downstairs. Wow, that came back real quick. That's Dominic.
Yeah.
Hey there, Peanut Gallery. No, but like not last night, but the night before, it was like in the middle of the night, like my throat hurt so bad, like really. And I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those things where it's like not just a cold, it's something worse. And it's going to be there for months. And then when I woke up, my throat didn't hurt anymore, but my head was so clogged that I couldn't like hear.
Nice.
Which is great. That has seemed to subside over the course of the day. And then last night...
has it subsided? Or have you just equalized and then eventually when you get the drainage?
Oh, that's true. Oh, I can hear again? Yeah, that happened to me last time.
You ever get that thing where like you're like, okay, like, oh yeah, my hearing's back, and it's not, you just have like stabilized at what you're like, you've just, your body is adjusted to it.
Absolutely.
And then you get the drainage and it's like, It's like, so what happened that I could hear? Oh, that's where my ears were clogged. Like,
Right. It's like, whoa, everything is just way too loud. I'm going to need everybody to calm it down.
I've had 2 or 3 times in my life, because obviously, both of us have had many, many sinus issues over the course of our lives.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember when I was a kid how bad my ear and sinus issues were.
I always had for me, it was always the ears specifically.
Well, when I was young, like 10 and under, or let's call it 12 and under, I would get like 1 or 2 ear infections every year.
Yeah.
And then like as I got into like middle school, high school, I would get 1 or 2 sinus infections every year. And it stopped getting, I mean, you still get a little bit of clogging because it's all connected or whatever, but it was like very much more focused towards like the front of my face and the sinuses. Mm-hmm. So there were a couple of times, especially when I got into the sinus infection phase, where like I didn't realize the level of clogging in my ear I had. Because I wasn't getting pain there. I was getting, I would get the actual pain from the pressure in there when I was younger.
Sure.
Every once in a while, you get like where it's just like that perpetual, like it's clogged, okay, you're blowing your nose, maybe something comes out, maybe something doesn't come out. Is it inflammation? Like what's going on? I would get one of those really, really, especially like after I was like past like the fever phase and I was on like the slow recovery phase, I would get a really good blow of the nose where like, you really fill up the tissue.
Why does that sound like old English?
I don't know.
A good blow of the nose.
I did. A good, really good, like a productive blow of the nose.
Sure.
And I would feel the draining in my ears because it was like now room for that to get out and go into the main sinuses. Mm-hmm. And like 2 or 3 different times in my life, I've had one that was so dramatic as the pressure tried to equalize within the sinus cavity that it sounded like some horrible machine was like firing up. And it would this like whistling squeak, but it was internal. I heard it like well, a little bit more like because like it was literally.
You want to hear the most annoying sound?
Exactly. It was like a pocket that was up against the eardrum,
right? That
was now like no longer full of like fluid and was now filling with air.
Yeah.
And it was the pressure differential was right next to the eardrum. So it was manifesting as a sound inside of my head. I've had that happen 2 or 3 times.
That sounds awful.
Pretty shocking when it happens. Although like after I realize I'm not having a stroke or something like that, it's a plus because I'm like, oh, that was a good thing. That means this shit's not in there anymore.
Yeah. Here's a question. When you're sick, what the fuck are your sinuses doing?
So it's because your body knows that there's something in you that's not supposed to be, and it's trying to get it out. That's why you get the runny nose, and your nose, like that's why you sneeze. That's why you like have to blow your nose. It's literally your body trying to like purge the thing out of you.
Sure, but it doesn't come out. It clogs everything. Well, you create this thick mucus.
What happens
that can't be expelled.
What happens is it's trying to get it out, but it's failing. So it just keeps doing it over and over again. You know how remember how like old computer stuff when you would try you'd hit escape like 37 times
with like dust and stuff. It's doing that because it thinks it can help, but it's not helping, and instead it's irritating you.
And because
you'd think that the rest of the body would, at this point in evolution, have like equalized that piece of it, because like,
well, here's the fucked up thing, and I don't know if doctors have ever. I don't know if this is a thing that's held by doctors, but this has been my supposition. I may be creating a revelation here, or I might be saying a thing that doctors have known for 100 years. I don't know. I've never read this anywhere. It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that the reason that like viruses still exist is because they figured out how to adapt to us, and so they use that as their method of reproduction to propagate and continue.
Oh, you mean like within like that?
Yes, they've created a symbiotic / parasitic relationship with the body where, oh, you think you're going to get rid of me by sneezing? Joke's on you. I'm going to go up someone else's nose and I'm going to just propagate more.
I too have seen a Mucinex commercial.
Yeah.
That tracks. It's just in there and the body's creating mucus and it's like, more.
Yes. It's like, you fool, you think this is helping? It's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one day the body will figure something out.
So this beer.
This beer's delicious.
Yes. Now, I was wondering when
that was quite the tangent.
I don't know if I don't remember if I read this beer when I bought it. But
immediately.
This is actually not that old for our standards. I looked at the can while we were talking. It was canned in March. I bought it in April.
All right.
We're a few months behind, but again, hiatus. That's fine.
Sure. This is probably more of a marketing thing. Drink immediately.
Yeah, I mean, when you have something that's super hopped up, we've talked about it before. When you have something that's really hopped up, like you will lose some of the aroma over time. Now, 6 months, if it's preserved well, it really shouldn't be that dramatically noticeable. It really shouldn't. But to go back for a second, when I saw this at Falconer, I don't remember reading the can when I first bought it. I assumed that they were using Falconer hops, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. It doesn't tell us.
Sure.
But considering the logo is a falcon, and they have this whole story about setting it free and all of that, I assume that was coincidental. And they were literally, truly, like, in the spirit of falconry. Falconer hops named for Glenn Falconer, who was one of, like, the pioneers of American craft brewing.
I mean, could be. It could be intentional.
It might just be a happy coincidence. Maybe they already liked the whole Falcon thing, and they're like, you know what? Let's make a beer with Falconer hops.
Well, whatever they did it right.
Promote synergy.
I'm going to try Stuckles. Do I want to go quad thucks on this?
I'm not gonna do a 4 thuck, but
you know what?
I will join you with 3.
I'm going to give this the coveted 4 thucks, and here's why. This is like at any given time, you can give this to me, and I will be happy with it.
Yeah. Well, pursuant to our conversation last week about IPAs and your evolving relationship with them, this is the one. This is the platonic ideal for you.
Yeah, this is... you've got it. You've got it, Czig Meister. You've got the 4 thucks.
I will stick with
from
3.
Your boy.
I will give this a strong and sturdy 3 thucks. I feel confident in it existing right there. This was a recommendation from my cousin Dan, who has contributed a handful of beers over the years to the show. I believe this is one of the ones he recommended when we were in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey, for my cousin's wedding 5 months ago. Me and him went to, because we had like an hour and a half before the reception started after the actual like ceremony, and we were like, okay, we don't know if we're gonna be able to do anything, so let's stop at this beer store that's 5 minutes away and pick up a bunch of beers, and if we don't drink them, no big deal, but we have them to drink if we want. This is one of the ones I picked up when I was over there with him, and I believe this is one of the ones that he specifically pointed out. I was like, oh, that's really good. So,
well, thank you, Daniel. You're a star in the face of the sky, Elton John. The only thing with the 4 thucks here is it must have an asterisk next to it on account of I am not at 100% capacity for aromas or taste. I chose not to do it, but I thought it could be funny if I took my NyQuil before we started recording, just to see what happens.
I don't know.
I didn't. I'd like to get through the whole episode.
Blue?
We might not make it to the movie if I had to do it. What?
Blue?
That's one of my favorite moments in the history of the show is you were just like kind of not being there like 100%. You were just
my soul left my body for a second there.
That was wonderful. Oh my goodness. What do you say we get into some news and nuggets?
Okay. What would you like to start with?
Let's start with the Mickey 17 trailer.
I saw that right before going to sleep last night. I was on my phone, I was in bed. So, I'm not 110% ready to fall asleep. Let me just do a little quick scroll. I saw that pop up on Twitter, and I was like, what is this? And,
what's Twitter?
It's the everything app, or whatever he's going on with her. I don't know. It's the Totally Normal Bird app. That,
it's the app for twits.
Owned by the Totally Normal Person. It's, so I saw this trailer, and I was like, I'll watch this trailer. That's a weird named movie that's from Bong Joon-ho. Why not?
Yeah. And
I watched the trailer, and at first I wasn't actually 100% sure that was Robert Pattinson, because that voice he was doing was very unexpected.
Yeah.
And that movie looks pretty ridiculous. I would say, like, thematically fits with some of Bong Joon-ho's work in the past, but tonally felt very different.
Yeah, like with like the outlandish nature of it, I guess.
Yes.
Like the
surreal thing.
Yeah, and it looks cool.
It looks like a super dark comedy. It's like
that's the thing.
It reminded me like tonally of like Death of Stalin.
Yeah, and I'm into it. And I'm into following Bong Joon-ho because like he did a great job with Parasite.
Yep.
And
Snowpiercer too. I never saw the whole
I still
movie,
haven't watched though.
But that I know people like love that movie.
But what I was, it's funny because if you like the marketing team did a good job of making it lean more comedic, I feel. But like if you're watching and paying attention, it does seem like it's going to be twisted.
What's what I'm saying? Like
dark.
This is going to be a super dark movie, but there is clearly going to be elements of like black comedy in this.
Like the end of Death of Stalin, when we're all laughing, right? We're all having a good time.
We're having a great time for 90% of this movie, and now I kind of want to turn all the lights off and hide in a closet.
Yeah.
But actually, the funny thing was, I caught like first 3 or 4 seconds of this trailer without like the sound on, and like I hadn't actually clicked it, so it was only like thumbnail, and I was like, did something just cut Robert Pattinson's hand off?
Yeah,
I was like, let me click this on and rewind to the beginning.
So here's the question. Is the 17th... So if you watch the trailer, you see that something happens to him, he dies, or he gets hurt pretty severely. They dispose of him and they create a new version of him, seemingly with all of the experience of the previous one and like learning a little bit more. So is Mickey 17 the one that they get right?
Well, it sounded like, based on the trailer, at some point or other, there's more than one of them alive.
Okay.
It sounds like 17 might be one of the ones that lasts more than 5 minutes.
Got it.
Maybe that's one of the ones that doesn't die, because like at one point we see one Robert Pattinson trying to throw the other Robert Pattinson into the disposal area.
I like the one where they're like, oh, he's still alive. He's like, just do it.
Yeah, he was in the body phase. It's fine, just do it. I'm genuinely pretty intrigued by this movie. I'm definitely looking forward to this.
It's a fun, unique thing on the horizon.
I think this is January of next year, right?
Yeah. Finding the time might be difficult, but this feels like it would be an entertaining one for us to get to go see together.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe we can pull that one off. Cool. Yeah, Mickey 17. See you in January.
Yeah.
The Archimedes engine. What's that?
Okay. I don't remember. I feel like we must have texted about this, but this would have been dead center of the hiatus, because this... Do you remember the release of the first like cinematic story trailer for the game Exodus at the Game Awards?
Was that the Interstellar game? Or something else?
Kind of, yeah. It's
the Matthew McConaughey space game?
Well, not with Matthew McConaughey, but yes, in space.
No, I'm serious about them. So maybe I'm thinking about something else.
Unless he was... Actually, I forgot to double check. There was a famous voice in the trailer, and I don't remember who it was.
I'll look it up real quick, but go on.
Okay. Yeah, so this is a game that, like... Well, the reason you said, the Interstellar game, is like... They're like time dilation and like fast and light travel, or actually like sublight travel.
It was him, yeah.
Is he actually in it?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember
this revealed trailer featuring Matthew McConaughey.
I remember that there was a famous voice in it, and I meant to look it up when I was putting this together with the notes last night, and I totally forgot to. So
yeah. Just to like bring it home at the end of the trailer, he went Murph.
So we definitely didn't talk about this on the show though, because this came out, like I said, dead center in the hiatus.
Yeah.
But I know I had sent you the trailer when it came out with the Game Awards. So the game is Exodus. Yeah. It's a adventure RPG game that's coming out at some point. I forget actually when it's supposed to come out. I think sometime next year. But it's oh, you're looking up now. Do you want to get it before I go any further?
Expected to release sometime in the fall of 26.
Oh, 26. I thought it was
at the very earliest.
So it's funny. We were talking last week about like life cycles of like promotion and all that sort of stuff. So this one, the reveal trailer at the Game Awards, totally cool. Like, game's doing that a few times out. This is I think the first big game that this studio is going to be making. So it's Archetype Entertainment is the studio. They're backed by Wizards of the Coast, which probably means more to you than to me. I know I've heard of it, but I don't really know anything about it.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons, and like that's all I know.
Yeah.
So that's made by there's a handful of people from BioWare, Bungie, Naughty Dog, a handful of developers from other big studios formed this company. It looks like the two big ones that I'm aware of anyway are James Olin, who was like an early BioWare guy. He did Neverwinter Nights, and I think he might have been involved with Jade Empire, and definitely Knights of the Old Republic, Baldur's Gate, when they did the first two Baldur's Gate games. And I think he did a little bit on Dragon Age Origins, and then I think he might have been one of the leads on The Old Republic, the MMO that BioWare did for a long time. He was with the company for like 20 years. Drew Karpyshyn was the lead writer, I think, of the Mass Effect games.
Okay.
And he is major part of the studio as well. So the two of them, plus a bunch of other people who are other people would know from other studios that I don't know as much about, formed the studio, made this game. This is their first big project that's coming out of this collaboration. And it looks like they're trying to do this whole thing and try to do things differently than the way like there's. I know we've talked about in the past this whole thing with the crunch and the ridiculousness of the AAA game making process. They're trying to do things differently. We'll see if it works or not. Sure. I'm super interested and intrigued by this. This is a really cool concept. I don't know how they're going to execute it because they want one of the central focuses of this game to be the reaction and evolution of things when it comes with respect to time dilation, which is, if you watch Interstellar, you know when they go through the black hole like event horizon type of stuff, right? Time and space move and work differently, and relativistic speed and all of that stuff comes into effect where you perceive it as being a certain amount of time and people outside of the event perceive it as a different amount of time. Uh-huh. That is going to be reflective in the gameplay of this game, where you have to make a decision and you have to jump to a different place in space. And for you, it might be a week of travel, but for everyone you left behind and who you are traveling towards, it might have been a year or 10 years. And so there's going to be this cascading change. Like every decision you make is going to accelerate time in some way, shape, or form as you're going. Sure. And I don't know how they're going to do that. Like, I don't know how they're going to make that work in a video game. It sounds super cool.
It's very, very interesting. I would say
very ambitious.
If that is your primary focus and you're building the mechanics around that, I think that it could make for some really interesting storytelling.
Which is what they're going to do. So I imagine there's going to be some of this procedurally generated stuff that goes along with it, but you still have to give those things guardrails, right? You have to give it a set of conditions that could work, and you got to give it an AI that is going to, meaning like not like what we think of AI, but like in video game, like the reflective choices that are going to happen based on those sorts of things. Because I think the gist of it is like humanity is kind of amongst the stars and threatened by a galactic civilization of much more powerful and intelligent species, and you have to figure out a way to create a sustainable civilization for humanity that's going to be safe from them. Sort of the trailer is really cool. It's like a really long trailer that it's a very like emotionally driven like thing. So it's the type of stuff you'd expect from like a BioWare / Naughty Dog type of collaboration. So I think it's a really cool, ambitious project. I don't know how it's going to work out. We're still a couple of years away from seeing how it works out. But that's the preamble to the story I wanted to bring, which was I saw last night that in support of this, they brought on board this author who I was not familiar with, Peter F. Hamilton, who is a sci-fi writer. And he is helping them with what, like we were just talking about with how those like sort of scientific things would go into play. It's the way that George R. R. Martin helped with Elden Ring's lore, he's helping them with that as well. With this project, with like, you know, how like the space and sci-fi and advanced civilizations, all that stuff might work theoretically. And in addition to that, he's writing a duology of novels, the first of which I think comes out tomorrow, I want to say, called The Archimedes Engine, which is going to exist.
Came out yesterday.
Oh, I thought it was coming out tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. I knew it was this week. So anyway, he's got this 2-book series that's coming out, which is going to be a canonical thing that exists within the universe, but is going to take place 100 years after the events of the game are supposed to take place. Insofar as when that game is supposed to take place exists, when you consider that depending on what choices you make, time is going to change. And, you know, your playthrough might cover 100 years or something like that, depending on what it is you're doing. So
that's really interesting. I on the website for Exodus, the timeline, like, they've clearly like they've got story written or like at least conceived that covers a lot more than that.
Yeah, they've already started to build out and like drop some of their like lore and world building stuff, which is pretty cool.
Like they've got, what do they have? Yeah, they have like things from 2200 AD to 41,500 AD.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that they've already put that sort of span on it.
And they have like their various eras that they highlight in there, and you could like read about each of the eras on the website. It's interesting. So I'm kind of. I think we should get really involved in this,
right? Well,
yeah.
And honestly, if you actually literally want to get involved, I think there's stuff on the website about like literally how you can support this game, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a founders program.
Yes,
I think I might get on board.
I have to look at it again. I know I read through all of this, whatever they had available in December of last year when the stuff first came out, and I kind of put it in the back burner because I knew it was a way out, but I would like to go back and reinvestigate some of what they've got going on, see if they've added anything since when I looked through it.
I've signed up to be a founder. I'll refer you.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Okay, so if I refer 3 or more people, we each receive a traveler's cloak. So I will send you my referral. I don't know what that means, but I'm interested.
Yeah, why not?
Here's your referral link. Let's get that cloak. You know what I'm saying? All right. Send one to Mike. Mike.
What do you just have to literally like sign up?
I just put my email in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like asking for payment or anything like that.
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Not at this time. Cool.
Okay.
This is exciting though. I like this. This is something to look forward to.
Right. This is
that sounded dark. There's plenty of things to look forward to. This is.
I took it to mean this is a new thing to look forward to, not the only thing to look forward to.
That's okay, good. I'm glad it came across that way. You know what it is? I think it's been a long time since there's been a video game on the horizon that like I was eating up like every minute of details that got poured out.
It was probably Survivor, right?
Not even because like in my mind that was like I knew it was going to be good, so like I wasn't even I didn't feel like I needed to be on top of it. Like there's so much of an unknown around what this is going to be like that it's intriguing to me. I remember maybe the last one might have been Destiny.
The first one,
yeah, and like getting into the alpha and like getting an idea of what it was like. And trying to convince my friends, like, you should try this. It's really cool. Them all hand waving me away, and then them losing their lives entirely to the game when it came out, which is funny. And then I bounced off like well before they got super into it. But it's just funny how that turned around. But this looks something about like the story driven aspect of it, and seemingly presumably the single player component, unless like there is like a world. There are world effects from like from network play in some capacity. I don't know what their intentions are there.
That would be cool if there be some way for you to like, even if it was just like to link, like if it was like me and you like linked our accounts where in universe, like things that I did were like, even if it was like text that existed within yours or whatever, like that would be super cool. I don't believe that that's like what's going on. I think it's supposed to be a single player game exclusively.
Sure. Which I'm okay with.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's honestly my preference. I don't really ever play multiplayer games at this point, other than which we haven't done in a long time. Like when you text me like, hey, you want to jump on and play Halo for a little bit. Like, that's the only time I haven't
done that in ages.
Yeah.
Get a round of Halo going at some point.
Sure. I haven't played the last several seasons, however many there have been.
It's just seasons. I don't do seasons.
Well, I just mean like there were different maps and weapons and stuff like that.
It'll take us a good night of playing to figure out how to play again, and then the next time we play, we'll have a great time.
Well, the really fucked up thing is I'll probably revert back to playing like Halo 3 controls, which are very different than the first like 3 matches. Even though I haven't played Halo 3 in forever, so
just like pushing all the wrong buttons.
Absolutely,
I like it. Closing the book.
All right, Anthony, I don't know how much you've kept up with this or seen about this, but considering they mentioned this, I was actually going to refer to you to listen to the first like 15 minutes of the full cast today. And I was like, you know what? This would be better since we're doing the show tonight to just read you what they reference here.
Okay.
So, on Variety, this was from September 16th. Former MoviePass CEO Mitch Lowe pleads guilty to securities fraud conspiracy.
No.
Former now, anyone who's been listening to our show for a long time, including you, Mike, hey Mike, Mike, who may have even used MoviePass more than you did.
I'm sure he did.
Former MoviePass CEO. We talked about MoviePass a ton when it existed. For those of you who don't know what it is, you'll learn a little bit about this and you'll understand how ridiculous this is. For those of you who are old hands at this story, listen along if you hadn't heard the news. I think this might be the final chapter, finally, of this ridiculous saga. Former MoviePass CEO Mitch Lowe pleaded guilty Monday to a securities fraud charge, admitting that he conspired to deceive the public and investors about the sustainability of the company's $9.95 a month movie subscription service.
Well, hang on. who is he really convincing that this is going to work? Because every time I used it, I had my credit card ready to actually pay for the tickets.
Well, you'll find out more as we go.
Okay.
Lowe, 72, faces a maximum of 5 years in federal prison. Under his plea agreement made public on Monday, Lowe agreed to cooperate with prosecutors and regulators, which could result in a reduced sentence. Quote, Mitch is a good man who's looking to move forward with his life, said his attorneys Margot Moss and David Oscar Marcus in a statement.
Character actor Margot Martin.
Exactly right. He has accepted responsibility for his actions in this case and will continue to try to make things right. Ted Farnsworth, the former CEO of parent company Helios and Matheson, is scheduled to face a trial on the same charges next March. Farnsworth, 62, has been in federal custody since August 2023 when his bond was revoked after he allegedly used company funds to pay for a sex worker. Fantastic.
Oh, boy.
Farnsworth and Lowe were the architects of MoviePass's doomed all-you-can-watch offering, which resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars in investor losses in 2017 and 2018. Investigators found that Lowe tried to stem the losses by throttling the service, forcing high-volume users to reset their passwords and verify their tickets. The two men were charged in November 2022 on counts of wire fraud and securities fraud. According to Lowe's plea agreement, the government estimates the total losses from the scheme at $303 million, though Lowe contends it is less than that. Lowe remains free on bond and is due back in court in Miami on March 21st for a status conference. Lowe published a memoir in 2022 in which he reflected on the downfall of MoviePass entitled Watch and Learn, How I Turned Hollywood Upside Down with Netflix, Redbox, and MoviePass.
Wow.
Farnsworth was initially released on a $1 million bond, but he was revoked, blah, blah, blah. This is just about him and his bond getting revoked.
This may be a super naive question.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the victim in this crime?
The investors. $300 million, Anthony.
Okay. They read the plan, right? When they invested? But
clearly what they're saying here, which I'm hopefully about to get to in this story, because I didn't actually pre-read this. Nope, it doesn't have all of it. Anyway, I believe the whole point of this was that what they were told the plan was, which if you remember, at some point they said what the plan was to build to such a huge amount that they would get partnership agreements with the major chains like AMC and all that.
Yeah.
That was never, apparently that's what they're saying in this indictment, well, not just indictment, but conviction, was that internally they knew that was never going to happen.
Okay.
And so this was just a get-rich-quick scheme.
Sure.
Still. And that they clearly started going through practice where like people were paying the $9.95 a month and they were throttling their ability to actually use it. So
those are your victims. The victims are the people that tried to pay for the service and were denied access to the service.
Also if you're told, hey, we have this plan, we're gonna scale this, create this huge thing, create this like inescapable service that has to be used, like the Amazon of movie watching that everyone has to use because everyone has a demand to use it at all these theaters, and then we'll raise the prices, and et cetera, and that'll change, and you have all this money that's gonna be coming back to us in the back end. You're gonna have angel investors that put money behind that because, like, we've watched Shark Tank. Like, there's all these ridiculous fucking things. Like, we've heard about all these angel investor meetings with venture capital funds and all that. The reason this happened is because VC funds probably lost hundreds of $millions, and you don't have to feel guilty for them, but it is illegal to take their money under false pretenses.
Sure. No, the only people I actually feel bad for in this scenario.
Oh, it's fine. I'm not saying to feel bad for fucking venture capital. You shouldn't. No. They're terrible. But it is still illegal to steal their money.
Sure.
And feel bad for the people who paid the money to use the service and then we're not getting what they paid for. I mean, that is also a type of fraud. That is illegal.
I semi feel bad for them because as a former MoviePass subscriber, at any given time, I fully expected this not to work.
Mm-hmm.
On account of, thinking for 2 minutes.
We talked about it on the show. You literally came out and said it. This doesn't make sense. I'm going to keep using it until they tell me I can't.
Yeah.
Which was the correct way to do that. You should have absolutely gotten your money's worth out of it. From all accounts, you did.
And then it got to the point where, like, it almost felt like a drug deal every time I was buying tickets because I had to go to the kiosk and I had to swipe the card and hope that the card worked. And if it didn't, felt like I needed to, like, run away.
You're looking around. Swipe. So
I don't know why the cards aren't working. Just like MoviePass. I will say, well, I gave that up and subscribed to the Cinemark, whatever their thing is called, specifically to support the movie theater that I was going to.
Well, and that's the other thing is, and I think it actually was talked about in that memoir. I was hearing reference to it on the full cast, but this accelerated the decline of movie theaters. This happened in 2017, 18, 19, and that was pre-pandemic, and things were already getting really dire right before the pandemic. Then obviously the pandemic was really what swept the legs out from underneath it, right? But movie theaters were already under serious stress at that time. And people going in and abusing this service was just taking even more money out of the pockets of the theaters. But
the theaters, they weren't getting the charge?
No, that's the whole thing. They were buying, I think they were like promising to pay a certain amount or whatever, but like whatever they were paying was like a lowball offer from it or something like that.
But the way the transaction went through would be you would go to the kiosk, you would select your tickets, you would see the full price of the ticket, and you would swipe a debit card. Mm-hmm. And that debit card was your MoviePass card.
I know, but I think that was just sending a bill to MoviePass. The way a credit card does, right? Where you're not literally giving them the funds that moment. That just creates an invoice that gets sent to the credit card company. Credit card company remands that payment, and then you remand your payment to the credit card company. So there had to have been some promise to pay from the company MoviePass to the movie theater. When you swipe your debit card, your MoviePass debit card, this is supposed to be for a $15 ticket, whatever. The $15 ticket the invoice is getting sent to MoviePass, with MoviePass having a promise to pay $15 for that ticket that you didn't actually pay for because you just paid your $10 to MoviePass.
But the transaction,
it's a Ponzi scheme
to the merchant though, and it gets cleared. When you swipe, there's an authorization that happens, and the authorization checks to see if there is funds to support the charge that's going through on the account.
No, that's how a debit card works, right? It's just so.
It was a debit card.
I know, but it wasn't actually a debit card because it wasn't tied to a direct account in the way that a debit card is.
It must have been to work with a swipe system like it did.
No, because credit cards and debit cards both work on the same swipe system, right? And with a credit card, now in present day, right? There's a quick look and see, like it's just a pass fail, right? It doesn't actually if you have a credit card that has a $3,000 limit, I have a credit card that has a $1,000 limit.
Yeah.
You and I both swipe for the same exact transaction at a store. I'm at this register, you're at that register. We're both buying $50 worth of items. We both swipe our cards at the same time. The credit card machine just shoots a quick message to Visa or MasterCard or American Express, whoever, and says they don't care whether you have $1,000 available or $10,000 available. What they're saying is, does he have at least $50 available? And then it just gives the thumbs up, thumbs down, right? That's how a credit card transaction, that's an oversimplified version, but that's how it works, essentially, right? Yeah. They're calling this a debit card for all intents and purposes because it's not using the clearing mechanism of the credit. They're terms of credit, right? It's a quote-unquote debit card because it's being directly debited from MoviePass's thing. But just because they're saying that, it still is probably my guess is it's under a promise to pay agreement in the way that a credit card transaction would work, where you're simply saying, you swipe this, and then AMC sends a message, an instantaneous message over the internet to MoviePass saying,
on the line,
go, no go, right? Member in good standing, not member in good standing, right? You paid your dues, you didn't pay your dues. It's saying yes. It's okay, you can buy this ticket then. The actual payment from that ticket is settled under whatever terms that MoviePass came to an agreement with AMC. You understand?
Yeah, the actual clearing of the transaction after the fact, you're saying, could potentially be negotiated.
Yes. Because there's different terms. Think about different businesses. Some of them have, you have to pay every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days, whatever it is.
But all of that happens through a bank.
Yeah.
That has to back that. So I'm kind of curious. I want to know. I'm so fascinated. Actually, I know there's documentaries coming or one out already. But I'm so fascinated if there's details on what the tech infrastructure was under the hood. Only because I do this stuff on a daily basis.
The tech infrastructure doesn't matter. What matters?
It absolutely does. It does.
No, I understand why you think that. But in the case of what was specifically going on with this company, what mattered was what promises were made and how much money they were paying at what time. because I think the gist
No,
of
no.
why
The reason why I'm saying it matters though is the bank that backs the that backs this communication is like I'm really curious about that, because like when you use these services and you use these cards that are tied to these accounts, like there is a bank that backs this stuff that is like insured and has, so like I want to know what happened there, because I bet you there's probably an even more interesting story right there. I'm curious about.
I don't think the story is going to have been executed in the way that you think. I think the tech was probably very standard. I think the issue here is what terms the bank agreed to with MoviePass and like what line of credit they extended them, because they probably told them, oh, well, at the beginning, we're not going to be bringing in as much money as we're sending out.
Right,
but over the course of time,
like some deal.
Yes, they're going to say over time, all of these companies, like think about gyms. It's like the whole thing everyone knows is a certain percentage of a population of people who pay in to go to a gym who don't use the gym, right? Sure. So like the same thing with this. They must have had their quote unquote estimates as, okay, if we have 100,000 people that use our service, we think 10% of them won't even go see a movie every month.
Right.
So you're baking that into your analysis of what your revenue stream is coming into the movie, into MoviePass versus what money's flowing out of MoviePass. And you're telling the bank, hey, listen, this is what we think we are going to be getting on a monthly basis. We think our growth is going to be this much over the course of the next 12 months. We think the average utilization rate is going to be 1.5 movies per user. We know there's some users that are going to use it 10 times a month. There's going to be some users that use it twice a year. And so those things are going to balance it out. This is what our utilization rate is. And then they're extending a line of credit over the course of the first 12 months, 24 months, whatever, a certain amount of money that is going to flow out to the chains versus a certain amount of money comes in. And it doesn't matter that the money that's coming in is lower, because so many of these businesses, when they first start in the first however period of time, know that they're going to be in the red for a certain amount of time.
Right. But back to the movie theaters and them getting paid.
Yeah.
Are you saying that they weren't getting paid?
I'm assuming they agreed to some sort of deal, and they probably got paid a little bit at the beginning and then realized that people were using the service more than they thought, and that their deal, what they got, was not going to be.
Okay, so thinking that they contacted these, I guess I am curious, like I know there's few of them, but
because if you remember,
a mom and pop one was never contacted, that theoretically the card wouldn't work there.
Yeah, well, I don't think it did work there. I think it was only able to be used at chains at the beginning, wasn't it? And then they were.
I don't remember. And then, I know it was like a weird.
And that's why they started springing up their own rewards, because they realized they were getting fucked on the deal, and so they were like, "We'll just set up our own reward thing where you could just see as many movies as you want, or X amount of movies for a price versus."
Yeah.
And
I also love how like you could tell which of the large theater corporations are scum, because like Cinemark was like, look, give us $10 a month, we'll give you a ticket and $20 off concessions. Mm-hmm. That's a great deal.
Yeah,
right. It's a ticket for $10. It's a second ticket purchased for the same price as your membership, so another $10. Other ones are slightly discounted. And then the concessions were 20% off. That's actually a huge savings when you go to the movie theater, considering concessions are extremely expensive.
If you're going often, yeah.
Right. Even if you're not, like if you're going to, because they roll the tickets over too. So if you like, I've got like,
so you could bank tickets.
Yeah, I've got like 9 tickets stored right now, because we actually had like somewhere in the realm of 20. Kim went to the movie with some friends, and we're just like, well, we'll just use our tickets. So like it's really great. Like the Cinemark's like I stand by, like, and granted the price has gone up over the last couple of years, but like I don't fault them for that at all.
But like it's still like the same gist of it, right? Proportionally, it's a similar thing. Right?
It's a great deal. It's like I don't want to get screwed going to the movies, right? Like paying like a boatload, but at the same time, I have no problem paying to go to the movies. It's one of my I'm happy to do it. But then AMC is like, how about this? You give us $50 a month, and we give you nothing. Like
is that how it works? I don't
know. Their whole thing is it's like they have they're
a bigger chain.
Their monthly fee is definitely higher. I remember looking into it at one point. I remember thinking like, this is absurd. Their tickets are already more money than other theaters. AMC sucks. Like when it comes to like actually caring about the customer.
Yeah.
Or like, treating it like they need the customer, because AMC, let's be clear, you need the customer. right? Cinemark, I get the impression that they know they need the customer based on the deals that they offer, right? And then like you go to it's like the AMC Stubs rewards, right? Then you go to get your concessions, and it's like, if you pay an extra, you get to go on the little golden line, right? And then you get to cut the other line, and it just makes the other people angry. It's not. It's silly.
Any sort of class system's going to do that.
It's very silly though, and it's just like I hate it. I hate the AMC system. It's,
well, the point is they
Cinemark all the way.
The point is like all of these things, they want you to pay more, right? Like they want you to get jealous and pay for the right. Like think about like, I'm going to fly on United or whatever. Like, okay, you don't get to pick your seat. Fuck you. You have to pay to take a bag, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you pay for our service, or if you're one of our members and you only fly with us, you can even pick your seat. You can bring as many bags as you want. You can. You
might even get to fly.
You might even get to fly. Like, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, I fly more than once a year, and so I don't want to be treated like literal cattle being herded onto your plane. So I'm going to join your service, right? Like, you're going to look at the guy sitting in first class with the warm towel, and then you're going to look at yourself with someone the size of me sitting next to you, and
I know you're not supposed to judge people when you see them. It's like a thing you're not supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to judge people. It's not nice. But I judge people so fucking hard when I get on an airplane. and I'm like, what are you doing in this first class seat?
So when
child.
No, so when it's a 5-year-old and not like the business guy?
Even when it's because when it's like the business guy, I know the company paid for it.
Yeah.
Right? But when it's clearly not, I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, what? Like, are you flying that often that you got the points? Like,
I mean, usually it's the thing where like the guy flies all the time, and once every 18 months goes on a trip and can buy nice seats for his family because he travels 3 times a month.
Yeah, but there's always a lot of douchey guys in those seats, and
we're talking about business guys.
Bros.
Yeah.
No, they're soft business. But there's I like my buddy.
Like business guys, like trademark, like business guys.
Gotcha. My buddy does get to do this for like flies well regularly, but it is because first for a very long time he worked for an airline company, and then secondly he does do a lot of business travel, and all of those miles that get accumulated he uses for his personal flights.
Yeah, that's what my dad did.
So that's
pre-pandemic when he was flying to Texas 3 times a year, and Japan 2 times a year, and Europe 2 times a year, or whatever he was doing. We would do a big trip every year or two, and we would, even if we weren't flying business or first class, but we were like flying for free or like for $50 a person or something stupid, because he went on 8 flights last year, including 2 to Japan.
Now like give me $600 and we'll let you hang on to the wing. Basically, it's ridiculous.
But like even when we went to Alabama for Dominic's class like earlier this year, it was just the 3 of us. When me and my parents, because my sister has somehow developed a fear of flying. I don't understand how that happened this late in life, but when we flew down there, just whatever normal seats. But when we flew back, because he has like status, like he had just bought regular like economy seats, but they didn't have every business like seat booked, so we were like first in line on the raffle off the seat. So the 3 of us get to sit.
Nice
business for the flight home. I mean, it's just a fucking 2-hour flight from Atlanta, but
it's something
still nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
I got to have a couple of Jack Daniels on the way home. Like this
is when you said your dad flying back from Japan and stuff. It got me thinking. I was recently, I think it was last night. We were watching West Wing, and so Aaron Sorkin. Writing, right? So you are familiar with the cadence of a scene and how like 3 different conversations could be happening at one time.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's 2 people that just like can't let go of something and they're talking about it while the other conversation is happening. And that's what's going on. And the head of press is talking about something that's going on that's like they have to deal with. And it's like it's annoying that they have to deal with it type of thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, how is this a big story? Meanwhile, these other 2 guys are still trying to figure out where like what time it is for the president because he's in Tokyo, and they're like, wait, so he's gonna leave tomorrow at 7, and they're like, local time? Yes. Our local time or his local time? Like they're having like this conversation that goes back and forth. So they finally figure out like he's gonna leave at 7 and arrive back home at 6 the day before, or like whatever, and they go, and that's not a bigger story than what you're talking about.
This literally was on the full cast like 3 months ago. Spencer Hall went to Mongolia for like 2 weeks to cover. It's like, I want to say it's like Nadam or something like that. It's like their big yearly festival, and it's the festival of the manly arts or something like that. And it's all like they're like different like ancient like sports and like rituals that they do and like all that sort of stuff. And he's very interesting character. They all are, but he in particular. And when he was coming back, he had to take like 4 different international connecting flights to get back to the U.S. 3 of the 4 of them live in Georgia. 2 of them live pretty close to each other, like right outside of Atlanta or one of the suburbs of Atlanta. And so Holly is the one who lives right near him. Like often when they record, the 2 of them are in the same room together.
Okay.
She was trying to figure out when to pick him up, and they literally detailed that conversation, because not only was he taking like 3 connecting flights, but each time he was going to end up in a different time zone. Like he was flying from like Mongolia to like Singapore or something, and then like Singapore to like Korea, and then Korea to
this sounds like my nightmare.
California, and then California to Atlanta or something like that. Like that was the gist of how because there was like basically no direct flights to Mongolia from like the East Coast, I guess, basically. Right. And like he was like in the middle of his like total exhaustion phase, and he didn't understand how the international dateline worked, and like both of them were getting furiously at each other. Her because she's like, how do you not understand how fucking time zones work? You're a 40-something-year-old man. And him because he's exhausted and doesn't understand what the fuck is going on around him anymore.
That's amazing.
And they talked through, like, it was like a 10 or 15-minute conversation as they were explaining to the other 2 what happened. And like, and he was basically, he owned it. And like, although he's still like, I still don't think I understand how the international dateline works.
That's so funny. It's almost like it's taken like almost like from the page of this episode, because like there's one of the things that happens. There's 2 characters, Josh and Sam. Sam is Rob Lowe, and Josh is I can't think of the guy's name. He was the guy from Billy Madison and Handmaid's Tale. And
I know
his actual. Anyway, he's great. He's probably my favorite character in the show.
The guy from Get Out.
Yes.
Yeah, I forget his name, but I know who you're talking about.
But Sam can geek out on numbers and stuff like here and there, or like and specifics. And Josh is like, it just still doesn't make any sense. And Sam's like, well, she's like, if you consider GMT is 0, and then he's like, no. It's like, don't explain it to me. It's so good. So going back for a second, this topic was closing the book. That was the fact that people are going to jail, most likely.
Yes.
Got it. Closing the book on MoviePass.
MoviePass.
But not me. I'm not going to jail, even though I felt like I may be every time I swiped it.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes, you were afraid you're going to be the one who was like...
Is it me? Am I the patsy?
Like, you're the patsy, like, you're the one who's going to get rolled up on while he gets the golden parachute out of there.
Because I talked about it so many times, it turns out that I was like the spokesperson.
Yes, one of our top listeners. He checks in every week ever since the beginning of this show because he works for the FBI, and it tipped him off. He's like, hang on a second, I need to look into this.
That's amazing.
Who knows what crimes are going to break on Flix of the Six?
Right. You never know. Should we get into some consumption?
Sure.
All right. You want to go first?
If you insist.
Sure.
Hey, look, I got to find what tab I'm
I don't have a ton for this one. So.
I don't either. This is what happens when we actually stick to a weekly schedule. All this stuff goes a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a really quick one, because this will be informing our episode next week. This past weekend, I watched tonight's movie and next week's movie.
Same.
I actually watched 3/4 of Furiosa on Friday night, and then the final quarter of it, and then all of Civil War on Saturday night.
Nice.
So I had a pretty sweet back-to-back movie night situation going on. So I watched Civil War. You watched Civil War. We are going to talk about it next week, but I have to tell the listening audience. For once, we actually give you a schedule.
Yeah. Next week,
you can watch Civil War. We've been wanting to do this. We've been talking about it since well before it came out. It is officially on HBO Max. If you didn't know that, now you do. That's why we finally were able to sit down and watch it. I really wanted to go to see it in the theater because I love Alex Garland's work and I wanted to support it. Didn't work out because I'm pretty sure it came out.
It didn't work out because of Movie Pass.
Didn't come out because of Movie Pass. I forget when it came out that I didn't end up getting around to seeing it. But I bet I didn't get to see it in theater. I definitely enjoyed sitting down, finally getting the opportunity to sit down and watch it. So we will be talking about that next week on the show.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same for me. Civil War was a one session watch. Furiosa was like a 3-session watch for me, and I very much appreciated the fact that the movie was broken up into chapters because those were perfect points for me to be like, well, now I have to stand up anyway. So
I did have a moment where I started watching it pretty late Friday night, and I was like, I'm probably not going to make it all the way through, but we'll see how I feel as I go. And it's like, okay, chapter by chapter. It's like, okay, cool. There was a point where I was like, I'm getting a little tired. I want to go to sleep. I'm going to wait till the chapter break. And that particular chapter was very long. And I was like, shit, all these other chapters were like 10 or 15 minutes. And we've gone like half an hour now. This chapter's not ended. I'm enjoying it, but I want the chapter to end so I can go to bed and feel like, when am I going to come back and watch 15 minutes of movie? No, right. I want there to be like a chunk of movie to justify coming back to watch the rest of it. Otherwise, I'm just going to stay up until I'm exhausted and watch the whole rest of the goddamn movie. Yeah. Finally, the chapter. And it's like, thank you. I can now watch the rest of this tomorrow. And I can go to sleep.
The chapters thing just got me thinking, like, you remember chapters on DVDs?
I do.
Something I haven't thought about in a really long time, because while I have DVDs? hundreds upon hundreds of DVDs.
I can see them now.
I don't actually watch my movies in a DVD player. Okay. I watch the digital versions of them that I have just for convenience.
I've never bothered going through the work of doing it. I think we've talked about that in the past. I also very rarely watch because I have enough services that almost anything I would want to watch is on a service.
Sure.
But at least, I would say twice a year, I come down here and find the Blu-ray or DVD that I want to watch, that I own, that is not available on some form of streaming.
Yeah, but it's just interesting because I was thinking like the idea of chapters, and like all of the chapters are like named usually, and I feel like there's almost like a lost art to that thing, because you don't get that in a. Well, actually, I don't know. I can't say that for sure. I don't know if you can access them in some way, like on digital copies. I do know that if you buy, like, I bought Ant-Man something or other digitally just because I wanted to watch it and it was out.
Ant-Man something or other.
But I remember, like, when I launched it, it actually launched to a menu similar to a DVD menu. Versus the digital copies of movies that I have a DVD for. When you launch them, they just play the movie. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like you download, like when you buy that, like
the way it does when you launch it from a streaming app.
Wait, say that again.
You said like when you like a digital copy, when you turn on it, just starts playing the movie. Like like when you watch, you go on Netflix or HBO and you click play movie, and it just starts playing the movie.
Exactly. But I bought this Ant-Man movie through Apple TV, and I launched it from my Apple library, and it launched to a menu.
Well, considering every streaming service is a different form of like fast forward, rewind, all that stuff, like it would be nice if they continue. It's not like it requires any work for them to actually break them up. Like they should have like a drop-down menu that lets you click on a chapter if you wanted to jump to a certain point. Like it would be helpful.
But it dawned on me that like
that's why those existed on DVDs. It's not like it needed to exist for any other reason. Yeah,
and it dawned on me though that there's also the special features existed in that menu, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And it is a compelling argument to buy a digital copy over.
Well, depending on the streaming service you're using, those things still exist. Amazon has a lot of those things. HBO has a lot of those things.
Sure.
I'm not saying it has all of them, but like a lot of those do exist within like the sub-menu when you click on it on a streaming.
No, but there is the weird thing about buying something these days where like if you, like for example, I buy a DVD and I don't use the DVD, I claim the digital code. I don't actually have access to those special features or things unless I put the disc in, which is fine. I hadn't really thought about it until I launched that movie and was like, oh, this is interesting. This is different. But anyway, I don't even know how we got on that tangent. Civil War, chapters. We were talking about chapters.
Furiosa.
Got it. Cool. I had to watch those things. I also, as I mentioned moments ago, am watching West Wing. We're nearing the end of the second season.
Yeah, we talked about it a good bit last week, too.
I love it. I just love the show. It's just such an entertaining watch. It's so well done. every episode is just like they are doing a better job of like now that it's getting more mature, like deep into the second season of allowing the stories to kind of stretch over the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can still throw on one episode and be fine.
Yeah,
but there is more of a there's more DNA between everything.
I mean, in a perfect world, even if you like that old school version of shows, there still needs to be connective tissue. Like it, like I don't know.
Sure.
In my opinion, anyway. Like that's something where it's such a weird thing. Like The Sopranos is very similar to how like it sounds like later stage West Wing does, where it's like each episode kind of is its own thing, but there are storylines and like it accelerates more as the show goes along. To the point where by the end of that show, it's basically the way modern television is now, right? Where every episode is interconnected deeply in a way that like more serialized shows are now.
Yeah, yeah. There is an art to it.
Like I think
there's an art to having both.
I think the perfect like version of like that art or whatever is like if you look at like the first few seasons, specifically, I would say like the first like 3 seasons of Dexter, you basically had a killer of the week as half of the episode.
Right.
And also half of the episode was we're continuing our storyline. And then as you see, as the season goes on, those things often intertwine in some way, shape, or form, right? Or you have a recurring thing that goes on throughout the course of the season. But like they had their cake and ate it too with that show, specifically early on, where they really stuck to some of the killer of the week aspects, which they got away from, where he would have like his like hunting like cycle would be maybe he would do it 3 or 4 times in a season instead of every single episode once it got to later stages of the show, which made a certain amount of sense with the development of the character in and of itself. But like looking back at the way those first 2 or 3 seasons worked, they really did. Like they were like, we like both of these things, so let's just do both of them.
That show was good for the most part. Did you never finished it, right?
You mean the
New Blood?
The New Blood one? No, I only watched like half of it. And a prequel is about to come out.
Ah, interesting.
So they cast a whole new cast. It's because it's him as a younger... He's basically supposed to be covering that flashback stuff between when Harry teaches him about the code and when he becomes like the actual Dexter who like is killing people and stuff like that. Yeah. And Michael C. Hall is going to be narrating the show.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of Harry style?
Yeah, well, and they changed the way Harry worked, like where he was like kind of flashback or like his imaginary friend.
Right.
But no, I think he's just going to be like the narrator of it. Maybe like the inner monologue or something like that.
Cool. Inner monologue would be cool.
Yeah. I'm not 100%
because
sure.
he does that already, right? He kind of does narrate Dexter anyway.
Yes.
So that's
it's
cool.
Like sequences of it, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, it's like half of it. There's got to be a parallel between that and like the way they executed 84 Dune, where like you're hearing it was just his inner monologue, not everyone's, right? But
did I say that out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I would be interested in that.
I think that's actually coming out kind of soon. I think it's on Paramount.
Okay, you should finish New Blood.
I had wanted to.
I think you would like it.
I had wanted to. I think the only reason I fell off was I was watching it with my mom and my sister, and we stopped having all 3 of our schedules synced up to watch it.
I get that.
We fell by the wayside for like a couple of months, and I just never got around to going back. I was enjoying it well enough. I wasn't because I disliked it. It just we were making an effort to watch it together.
Yeah,
that fell off. So
it just dawns on me. I didn't have it on my list, but it just dawned on me now that last time we spoke, I had about 20 to 40 minutes left of the second season of House of the Dragon. I did.
No, you said that.
I did finish it.
We talked about that.
We talked about finishing it though.
No, we talked about you having 40 minutes.
Yeah, I finished it. But okay. I finished it since then, so that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. That's all I got to say. It's whatever.
It's better than the worst of Game of Thrones. It's nowhere near as good as the best of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It's just times. These are just times.
I enjoy watching it. It has not captured that glory. It does have moments where it flirts with it, but
it has moments. Yeah.
But nothing in it it makes me cringe the way some of the worst of latter Game of Thrones does.
On to better Martin work. I've beat my first like legit boss in Elden Ring.
I know you said you ran away scared.
I ran away scared. I explored the world. I leveled up, did some stuff. I went back and fought him. I summoned some jellyfish.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay. The jellyfish distracted the boss, and I just went to town. And I destroyed him. Wrecked him.
Nice.
Wrecked him. Didn't even come close to the second time. The first time I was like, okay, let me figure out what I'm going to do. He killed me. I was like, okay, cool. Let me try again. And I got him good. And then I moved on to this sick castle. And I'm plundering the castle. And I'm just going through. And,
now, was this the haunted castle that led to that poor innocent woman on the road getting killed?
No, that I finished.
Okay.
That was an interesting one. I finally find the guy after I make my way through that castle's cool. I make my way through that castle. I find the guy. I hand him the letter from this woman, and it's like, oh, if I do manage to get out of here, he tells me basically about how he's going to meet up with her and the whole life they're going to have together. And I was like,
about that.
Is my character going to tell him that she's dead? Like, my character knows. I know that because I know that.
Yeah.
So my character knows that. And he doesn't say it. My character doesn't say a thing. It's not even a dialogue option.
What a bastard.
Just doesn't say it. He's like, yeah, cool. You got anything for me? Like, it's basically like, it's like, I give you a letter. Give me, got you.
I got
give
you.
me cookie.
I feel like a lot of other
sort of special twig.
A special twig, nice.
I've got so many items that I haven't the slightest idea what they do. I've got materials. I've got the special twig. They're just in my inventory.
Have you tried brandishing it?
Use special twig?
Brandish twig. I like when an RPG lets you like pull forward information that you found, where like use like extra dialogue option, like tell them X, like like, oh yeah, I can't wait to meet up with my wife, and it's like tell him wife is dead,
right.
like stay quiet and collect bounty or whatever,
Right. Well, what was weird was when I talked to the guy, I was like, give him the letter or don't. I was like, give him the letter. Why wouldn't I give him the letter? Give him the letter. Like, what am I going to do with this letter? I've got no reason to hold on to this.
You don't know that. You might have been able to interface the twig with the letter and create something.
I needed to give him the letter to get the twig.
That's a good point.
I'm more interested in the special twig. I want to know what its deal is.
I mean, it's literally called special twig?
It's some sort of glistening branch. I don't know. I don't remember. These things have such ridiculous names. But I don't know. It's a very interesting. I don't know why I'm so fascinated by this game, but it's like, it's clearly, it's like so well realized, and there's so much going on, and there's so much to it that I just have no idea that I think it's fascinating.
Okay.
And I keep just going deeper and deeper into it. Like I said, I found this. So I get to this castle, and I talk to this guy, and he's like, hey, you should go through that hole in the wall over there, because if you go through the gate, you're going to die. Like if you go through the gate, the guards are going to see you. They're watching. If you go through the hole in the wall, you'll be fine. And I vaguely remember hearing about this castle after the first boss where there's this NPC that will leech money off of you as you progress through the castle or something along those lines. And I was like, is this the guy?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the guy? So I killed him.
Oh, nice.
And I took his shiny pearl.
Have you tried?
I'm not. I've got a shiny pearl and a special twig, and I don't know what either of them do, but they're in my inventory. If I find out at some point during the course of my gameplay, I'll let you know. But right now, I've been making my way through this castle. It's very cool. And I come across this gigantic knight inside this one room, who, by the way, is not a boss. He's just an enemy, who for some godforsaken reason I can't kill. I'm having a real hard time with it.
It's one of those, like, kind of like faux bosses, so it's like not an official boss, but it's like a bonus boss.
Yeah, like one of the giant white spider.
No, that was an actual boss.
That was a boss, wasn't it? Yeah, just a little bastard.
No, I'm thinking more like Rick the Technician.
Okay, no, but that guy's no struggle at all. Yeah. This guy, I found out that I can actually sneak up behind him before he gets aggravated, and I can do like a critical strike on him. But it only does half damage. Like it cuts half of his health bar away, which is pretty significant considering I can't get a lick in edgewise. But then when he recovers from that, he just starts wailing on me, and I've got no defense. like he's so big that if I hold my shield and he hits me, like I've got 0 stamina left. I'm like,
geez.
awesome. I can't even roll. Like it's bad. It's bad news bears. My buddy told me I could like kite him away from the area with the chest and then go get the chests and just leave. I was like, he needs to die. Anyway,
have you tried throwing the pearl?
I'm stuck on this loop. Should I brandish? I'll brandish the twig first and see what happens.
Maybe just take the twig and try and jam it in the eye slit of his twig,
and I just flick it out.
Yeah. No, you've got to find the third item, the common rubber band. And you put the common rubber band on the special twig, and you launch the shiny pearl.
Yes, it's definitely something. Well, like this game is so bizarre. Like I told you, like it's got depth. There's a lot going on. There's icons on my screen that I assume have something to do with some of the equipment that I put on my person.
Okay.
I don't know what they mean. They're there. Sometimes there's an X over one of them.
So these
I have no idea what they mean.
So you're talking about like these like HUD icons or like
so they're HUD icons that mean nothing to me.
So they're not like web.
They weren't always there. They're there now.
Sort of status type of thing. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
I'm sure if you looked it up online, you'd be able to find out what that meant.
True, but I feel like I should be able to know, right? I feel like something in the game should tell me.
Do you want me to look up what the twig is, and if I find an answer, you can decide whether I tell you?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do
special twig and silver ball, whatever the.
I'm gonna do my consumption, and then when you do your next one, I'm gonna look it up quick while you're talking. Okay.
Okay.
So we talked a little bit about football last week. I want to talk a little bit more about football, namely that I'm going to a football game tomorrow night and Saturday. I'm going to Jets Patriots. It's the Jets home opener tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football. Took off work the next 2 days. So this will be an episode, even though we're getting started early, we're going to get done early-ish. Early for us, certainly. I do not have to get up for work tomorrow.
Nice.
Going to the football game. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully, maybe. If it doesn't rain. It's rained on the last two. Last I checked, there's still a chance of rain for tomorrow. So last 2 years I've gone to games, it's rained. So that's great. This time in September we're going instead of October, November, which, rain in 65 degrees is a lot better than rain in 45 degrees.
Sure.
But anyway, super pumped for that. And then
Nice.
Saturday we're going to Army versus Rice, I believe, at West Point. So football packed week. Should be a good time.
Nice. That sounds right up your alley.
It does. Sure does.
I hope you enjoy it.
We will.
How long does it take you? Oh, I guess not terribly. You used to like an hour 30 to get.
So if I were just driving to the stadium and it wasn't a game day,
it
would probably take me like hour 10, hour 15. Okay. We will probably, since it's a Thursday night, the game's at 8:15. There's going to be some rush hour. Now, part of the reason I took off tomorrow, so I basically have only used like 2 or 3 days of my like 3 weeks of vacation for the year, and half my year is already done. Sure. So I was like, I need to start coming up with things to do because I don't have any other big like trip or anything planned.
Sure.
Didn't do a vacation this year. So I was planning on taking Friday off because by the time the game's over, get home, like probably not going to be going to bed till like after 1 o'clock. And I was like, don't really want to do a Friday work after that, especially since how brutal my Fridays are. So I was like, let me take off Friday. And then I was like, you know what? If we're all here and ready to go early enough, we'll only catch a little bit of rush hour traffic at the end of the drive. I will be in the lot. We can have some beers, have a bite to eat, hang out for a while, which I love. Like, it won't be like a full tailgate. We're not going to fucking cook anything like in the lot or whatever. But like, I like having the experience of get to the stadium, no stress, kickoffs in an hour or two from now. Preferably like if we leave here by like 4-ish, which is the plan right now. Like, we could realistically be there by 6, if not earlier, and have basically 2 hours to kick off. So we could have some beers, we could have a bite, maybe toss around a football, who knows?
Why don't you just go even earlier, hang out at American Dream, get your water park on.
Well, I would be down to go earlier, but my brother can't take off work. He's taking off Friday, but he can't take off both days. So basically, we're just waiting. The second he gets here, we're going.
So you're gonna be late.
I mean, usually he's done in the 3 to 4 range.
Sure.
So assuming nothing weird happens, we should be able to leave here by like 4:15 and get down there by, like I said, if we get down by 6, free and clear, no stress, good to go.
Could also go to Medieval Times and then go to the game.
Literally right around the corner. But the parking is fucking expensive for MetLife Stadium. So
walk from the Medieval Times parking lot.
It's a bit of a hike. It doesn't look very far because there's nothing immediately around the stadium.
Yeah, I know.
But it is like 2 miles or 3 miles probably.
Yeah. No, it's
that would be a hike, and
it's a treacherous journey on foot.
Also, I was just saying, not convenient places to be walking either.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
But excited for that. That'll be a good time. Again,
nice.
Assuming the weather is decent, the Jets win, which it's tough ever saying anything that the Jets should do, but Jets should win. And then going to the game on Saturday, West Point's not even 20 minutes for me, so. Those are usually 12 o'clock games. Actually, got to double check, but I'm 99% sure that's when that is. I went to a game 2 years ago, and we got there at 9 o'clock. Had some beers out in the parking lot, took the shuttle up to the stadium, and it's just a cool day. It's a little different. As uncomfortable as modern stadium seatings is, college stadiums, specifically that older stadium, is different because it's basically all just fucking bench seating. Not as comfortable, not good for your back. But still, it's a cool time. Support the troops, all that fun stuff. So
nice.
Be a football packed weekend.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. While you're looking up the special twig,
let me look up the twig.
I do remember that it was called Castle Morn. I think that I got it from
MORN or MOURN.
MORNE.
Oh,
yeah. I think that's the name of the castle. I got it from delivering the letter to somebody there, Sir something or other. Anyway, so last night I still
was it the sacrificial twig?
Yeah, special twig.
Sacrificial twig.
Yeah, is that not special?
It has an effect. Did it tell you that there was an effect?
Did not. Maybe this was one of the boxes that I have on my hut.
It's a talisman.
Oh,
do you know how to use talismans?
I think so. Yeah. I know how to use talismans. I got some sort of fire talisman going right now.
So there's no way for you to, when you look at it or click on it, to see what it does?
I just haven't looked at it yet. I just hadn't.
Oh, okay. So it says this is on the Elden Ring.
I will say it didn't look like the other talisman that I have, so it's not. It is fair that I did not know that that's what it was.
It's this is on the Elden Ring wiki. Sacrificial twig is a talisman in Elden Ring. It prevents rune loss upon death, but will be lost itself in exchange.
Oh, that's interesting.
The story, the little story blurb, the lore says a talisman fashioned from a dried twig so slender that it might snap at the slightest touch. Prevent rune loss upon death, but will be lost itself in exchange. Believed to be a twig pruned from the Erd tree long, long ago. I was going to ask, did it have anything to do with the Erd tree, which is one of the very few lore things I know about that game.
Okay. Cool. So now what about the silver ball that I have that I got after I killed the guy at the opening of Stormvale Castle?
Is it called Silver Ball or is it Shiny Pearl? Because you've called it two different things now.
I have no idea. I don't remember.
Apparently you can buy one too. You can buy more than one. There's a few of these. There's several of these out there. Also,
Gatekeeper Gostic. That's the guy's name. I killed his ass.
Okay.
Kill Gatekeeper Gostic. Should I kill him? I killed him due to 2 reasons. No 3 reasons. First is stealing runes. Second is sending us to Trap Route as main castle. What? I didn't have... Oh, he is a tricky bastard. They drop a ball bearing, which you can trade in to an NPC at the Round Table Hold. Okay, I can trade it to somebody at the Round Table Hold. I just learned that.
Also, apparently, he only steals for you if you die in the castle.
Oh, well...
It says
in my defense, I've died in the castle a lot.
If you die within Stormvale Castle, he will steal 30% of any runes dropped when dying.
30%. That's a lot. This is good. This is good because I think I'm holding something like 15K while I keep trying to kill this stupid knight.
Also, after you kill Godric, he moves to the Godric the Grafted site of Grace, stomping on his remains. Once he opens a shop, he'll no longer steal from you.
Huh.
Is that the name of your faux boss, Godric the Great?
No. No, this is just some random knight character. Godric the Great, I think, is a
Sorry,
legit boss.
Godric the Grafted, also known as Godric the Golden, is a demigod boss.
Yeah, I haven't gotten. I don't think I've killed that person yet.
Okay.
I killed somebody.
Not to get bogged down in the game that came out 18 months ago, but
It's a great game. I'm really having a great time with it. I'm just a weird samurai.
okay.
I have a special unsheath attack. Let's go to town with people. Anyway, back to consumption.
Yes.
So, last night, I feeling like absolute trash, and I took NyQuil, and I laid down on the couch, and I fell asleep. And I had a really weird dream
Okay.
that starred Sean Connery.
Sorry, did you just say your dream starred Sean Connery?
Yeah, it did. Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin in what I could only describe as something that resembled the dam level in GoldenEye,
which was with a Pierce Brosnan vehicle.
Yeah,
but you just hang on a second. Two of the main characters from Hunt for Red October were in a James Bond movie video game.
I think I managed to connect the dots after the fact. I woke up to what sounded like a war zone. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that before I had slipped into my NyQuil coma, I had started Hunt for Red October, and I don't remember.
Okay. So this was probably more of like a Twilight, you were kind of seeing / hearing the stuff, but not processing them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I do remember I don't remember putting the movie on.
Now, in your dream,
I remember
was Sean Connery speaking in a terrible Russian accent?
No, he just sounded like
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, okay. Yeah. I do remember, though, I remember flipping through Max and looking at covers of movies, and I guess I put it on, but I remember seeing the cover of it and thinking, oh, there's something interesting about this box art style that is just of a time and includes such movies as GoldenEye. And then I guess at that point I fell asleep and hit play.
Well, I was going to say, is there any chance you were fell asleep while scrolling and accidentally clicked it on?
I don't. Well, the thing is, now that I'm thinking about it, I do remember telling Kim that I was watching it. So maybe I was just in and out. I was in and out. But yeah, that was when I woke up, I was like, what is happening? And then,
you wake up and you're like, we're going down.
Yeah, basically. It's terrifying. Anyway, I'm not actually consuming the Hunt for Red October, or at least not in this place.
Subconsciously.
I'm subconsciously consuming it.
You know what I consciously consumed?
What's that?
So I sent you a picture Thursday, the day after we recorded. Now, I have this weird thing that happens where if I am in a relatively normal state of affairs, and then I have a night with a terrible night of sleep, I actually wake up better then. So I got less than 4 hours of sleep Thursday, Wednesday into Thursday last week, because we got done. I didn't actually get to bed until after 1:30.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I think I fell asleep around 2:00.
And I had to get up. I usually get up at 6. I got up almost an hour early for work. So I literally slept 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Nice.
When that happens, when I wake up, I actually feel fresher and more alert than I do when I get a full night of sleep.
Same.
Now, I feel much worse later, but
absolutely. You don't make it through the day.
Yeah.
But you feel good. You feel good going, and you're it's a full sense of confidence. You're I can do this.
Now, I was racing through the day because I knew the crash was coming. Yeah. And I was I need to get done because I'm going to be very cranky at some point. I need to get through everything to get home.
Real cranking scene.
Yeah. It's I got home. I was okay, I'm going to watch the football game. Probably going to fall asleep. I was struggling by halftime. None of that's important. What's important is I sent you a picture.
Beetlejuice.
Of a delightful pastrami sandwich that I had.
I thought you were talking about Beetlejuice.
I also sent you a picture of Beetlejuice, which is fucking fantastic. But I sent you a picture of this smoked pastrami sandwich I had.
Yeah.
And that inspired me. I'm going to make and smoke a pastrami.
Nice.
It's going to take me a week or so to get it ready to go. Because I want to let it brine. I've seen you can. So the one I had was brine for 3 weeks.
Okay.
I'm not going to brine it for 3 weeks. I can't wait that long.
Sure.
I'll brine it for a week. I was going to do it this past weekend.
Yeah.
But funny thing happened. It's not funny at all. On Saturday, when I was coming up with my plans to do it, noticed that our freezer was behaving oddly.
No.
And for a couple of days before that, I was noticing there was just like weird frost and like it's like maybe it didn't seal properly, maybe it didn't close properly, whatever. I don't know. It's like, why is there so much frost? And then I noticed that some of the ice cubes didn't look so icy.
No.
I was like, that's not good. And I was like, I was like, went to move it, and I was like, okay, something's like kind of jammed, and something fell out behind the drawer.
Okay, so it hasn't been like closing.
No, it's been closing fully, but I think something was like up on like the thing and was like up against the fan or the intake.
Okay. Yeah.
And because like I like pulled it open and like whatever, and then I went to like go in and reach it, and I was like went to move it, and a massive chunk of ice fell. Which it must have been defrosting, and that's why it fell, and it had been building up all that time, and that's where the frost was coming from.
Right.
Took all this ice out, scraped everything I could see, whatever. Stuff had started to melt, there's water, sopped it up, cleaned up, whatever. Fast forward a few hours, the freezer and the refrigerator stopped cooling in any way, shape, or form.
Nice.
So my parents got a new fridge and freezer the other day. It's actually a really quick turnaround. I was not expecting that to happen that fast, because we threw everything that we could in the basement fridge and freezer. I had to take out all of my like loose beer, which is unfortunate. I got to load that back in. None of the show beers, all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And we also had a massive cooler sitting in the kitchen for several days, filled with ice and all the other stuff we couldn't jam in the fridge. But they went to Lowe's on Monday, and by Tuesday afternoon, it was delivered and installed. New fridge and freezer. And they also sprung for a chest freezer, which is actually probably pretty smart. We should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah, chest freezer is clutch.
But I had been making the plans on Saturday. I was looking into what ingredients I needed to buy, what cut of meat I needed to buy. I was like, I'm going to brine it like Saturday and Sunday, wait until next weekend so it would be done this weekend for Sunday football. Then, of course, the fucking freezer and fridge died. And I was like, well, I'm not going to... there's no way for me to properly fucking brine this for a week. We don't have a refrigerator.
Right.
So my plan is to make it for next weekend's football.
Sounds delightful.
Now, if you are super lucky, and I cannot promise this, if you are super lucky, I will try to make it in time for you to have it on Saturday. Or at least to take it home with you.
Okay.
I cannot promise it yet.
That's okay. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on you.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, like, I have time the next 2 days to maybe start the brining process. The problem is, can I successfully... I would have to smoke it Saturday. You and me are going to be out of the house for like half the day Saturday.
Yeah.
So don't know if I'm going to be able to actually do that. It's going to require someone to be on hand to continue to add smoke to the smoker, which I cannot account for. So you may end up missing it by a day.
That's fair. You have to let me know how it goes then.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'll just have to settle for my spicy sunrise.
Yeah. Tell me about the spicy sunrise, which is something you can do.
All right. So I am at this point, I am sick.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to get out of the house though. We had cleaners coming, and I like to just be out of the way so that I'm, So I actually went and worked at my parents' house because they're in Italy, and I had to feed the cat anyway. So I went over there, got myself situated, and I was like, man, I'm hungry. And I can't breathe. And I was like, I passed the bagel nook on my way to their house, and I was like, for bagel. So I'm back, finished my meeting, hopped back in the car, ran over to the bagel nook. I was like, you know what? Maybe a breakfast sandwich, not just a bagel, something tasty. And then the clouds parted, and the screen turned on, and the right screen of their like 6-screen menu situation, and a sandwich called the Spicy Sunrise.
Yep.
Which is a scrambled egg with jalapenos, hot roast beef, hash brown, pepper jack cheese, and jalapeno ranch on your choice of bread.
Nice.
To it, I chose what I thought was some sort of everything Biolsi, and I asked for that thing, and the girl was like, it's not a Biolsi so much as it is just a really flat bagel. I was like, what? And she's like, we take the bagel when it's hot, we smash it. It's like, okay.
It's like one of those bagel thins?
Yeah, it wasn't thin. It wasn't like, imagine, when a bagel is scooped out and it kind of gives you the appropriate size bread for a sandwich. Most of the time I get a bagel sandwich, I ask them to scoop it just because otherwise it's too big. It's too stacked. It's too much.
That is, I've never done it. I agree. It can be.
It's not structurally sound.
I agree. It's a little unwieldy, but that the only exception to the rule, the whole scooped bagel thing is so fucking stupid to me. But if you're gonna do it for the purposes of a sandwich, go to town.
Sure.
The people who like just order a bagel scooped, why? Just eat something else.
I don't think I agree with that, but I understand your frustration. I will say though, the flattened bagel, the flagel, if you will, it's just genius. Like, I don't know, I can't. When I tell you that this was one of the most delicious things I've ever eaten in my life.
I mean, it looked delicious.
Like, also, I don't know what you're doing to your roast beef, Bagel Nook, but that is the most tender meat I've ever eaten. Like,
so was it deli roast beef or was it actual roast beef?
Oh, it was actual roast beef.
Okay, because like that was like I told you a while back about that breakfast. Well, a deli near me that does that breakfast sandwich that had like actual roast beef on the breakfast sandwich, not sliced roast beef. And like same thing, like the pastrami sandwich that I sent you, it's not deli pastrami. Like it's literally like this deli / restaurant is in support of a farm. The farm is directly behind it. There's cows that are sometimes right next door to it. Like they make their own brisket / make their own pastrami, and then they don't deli slice it. They cut it into like, you know, it's like chunked the way that you would have like corned beef, like for like St. Patrick's Day type of corned beef.
Yeah,
but it's pastrami, you know.
I think that they probably put this through a deli slicer based on the way that it was cut. That being said, you know it's the good stuff when it's got jus.
It's beef that they roasted. It's not roast
It's
beef.
like, oh, when I picked it up and it just started dripping.
Yes.
Just this delicious, and like the flagel was soaked with it, and the mutton is nice and lean. It was I can't, dude. It was so good, and I couldn't taste it, and it was that good.
Oh,
Like I was so stuffed, but all of the levels of jalapeno in that sandwich were really helping with the congestion.
well, the next time I stay and confuse Elliot because he thinks I live with you, but only sometimes.
Sure. Is Al downstairs? He's not.
He's out downstairs.
You don't get how life works yet.
We'll go to the Bagel Nook. We'll have a spicy sunrise.
On a daily basis, I'll get him up in the morning, and he's like, "Who's coming today?" I was like, "Nobody, kid. It's just us. You got to deal with that."
What, are we not good enough for you?
But yeah, we'll get some spicy sunrise. Elio likes the Bagel Nook. They do have like absolutely absurd things there that I have no intention of ever getting. But like they're like, hang on, now I feel like I need to pull this up. Do you have any other consumption while I'm looking this up?
My only other one is that I watched, I want to say another episode and a half of The Bear since we talked.
Oh,
I was trying to finish the episode I started last night, and things got in the way, and I had to pause because I was like, I need to go to bed a decent time because we're doing the show tomorrow. Don't know how late we're going to start. Whatever. Although not as big a deal since I was going to be off Thursday, but I still just don't like. I was up pretty late watching the game Monday. I don't. I now that football season's going and we're like back on recording like schedule. I know I'm going to be up late Sunday. I know I'm going to be up late Monday. I try to get to bed at like a good time Tuesday, so I'm fresh for us to do the show Wednesday, knowing that I'm going to be watching the game Thursday. And then like the weekend, whatever, like I can get up and go to sleep at whatever times I want, you know. So I watched the episode with the Seafolds where Sugar goes to Restaurant Depot.
Yes.
And then the next episode, which is the one with her giving birth, but I'm only about halfway through that episode.
Gotcha. All I could think during that Seafolds episodes was how much I hate those fucking napkins.
Well, like everyone's got like a line about it. Like every single one of them mentions that they need the Seafolds. Like she just, it is a little insane that she'd volunteered to go do that job on her own when she's that pregnant.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
I mean, I understood the whole point was like she needed to be out alone, and like
exactly.
Like I do get that part of it, but like at a certain point, you're extremely pregnant. Like you cannot be buying shit in bulk for a restaurant alone. Like you could go with someone, but like it's like she's already been extending herself too much with the amount of stress of like helping to run that place, and also getting caught up in the fucking perpetual maelstrom that is Carmi and Sydney and everyone. So it's bad enough that she's now like lugging around, and I guess I underestimated how heavy like a bushel of Seafolds is.
Yeah, sure.
But that wasn't the only thing. She bought a ton of shit alongside with all of that. But like even that, like that's the type of store I would assume that like when someone's checking out and you see that they're extremely pregnant and they're bought a whole bunch of stuff in bulk, you'd say, "Can we help you to your car, ma'am?" Like she doesn't need to be lifting all that stuff on her own. Like can we help you?
It's basically a warehouse that she's shopping at.
Yeah. But no, of course, no one's helping her. I could not believe that she drove herself. Like that scene was incredible. That of all these scenes that are incredibly stressful, and a lot of them, I don't want to say they're performative, but I actually don't get sucked into some of those scenes in that way where like I feel the secondhand stress because like some of the times I'm like, you're an idiot, you put yourself here. Right. That's not even a criticism. It's just like as a viewer, like I can There's times where I want to give myself over to the emotion of the scene, whether or not it's perfectly written or not. And there's times where I'm just like, I don't, come on. Like you're doing this to prove a point more so than it is about how natural it is within but the scene of her trying to drive, and I've never been pregnant and never will be, but like that scene was
never say never.
The type that, the type of scene that, like it sucks you into it, and it's like you like just as like as an empathetic person, you allow yourself to be there and like feel that through her eyes, and then add on top of that the fact that everyone on the show is a fucking asshole and no one answers their phone.
It's pretty great, and pretty well done, I should say. That show is great. They did well. They did well at the Emmys. Yeah,
well, that was actually I forgot to put that on the news. I meant to. Because I know you and Kim tend to watch all the award shows. I didn't know if you watched it.
I got surprise Emmy'd. We were in the middle of West Wing, and it was like, oh, the Emmys are on. I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, they're over in an hour. Well, we'll start it now. And we put it on. We watched the whole thing.
I meant to put it on the news segment. Totally forgot about it. Is there anything about
I will say,
you want to talk about? Or?
Yeah. The only thing that I will say is an award show can be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, the Emmys. The
Levy's doing it.
The Levy's, but that's the thing. Like they absolutely crushed it. It was so funny. They were hysterical. The writing of what they were doing was great, and their performances were fantastic. Like it doesn't like I know like there's always all this talk about like, oh, who's going to be the host of this thing, that thing, and like people don't want to do it because like all of that. It's like no, it was just written well. It was unoffensive, and it was well done. They made a couple of good jabs at different things, but they were all in good fun, and everybody had a great time, and everybody was laughing, and it was just really well done.
It's going to take a few more years for the conversation around offensive comedy to settle into a state of equilibrium. It's going to take a few years for that to happen. Still, I do think it'll happen at some point, but the thing that gets lost in that conversation is if you're smart and or clever and or funny enough, you can write fantastic humor that's not offensive.
Yeah.
It is possible.
Yeah.
I understand that maybe you prefer to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I am to a point sympathetic with you feeling like you're being curtailed from doing what you want to do or what you feel like you're best at. To a point. But it is entirely possible to do comedy without that. And also, even beyond that, like, there are avenues that you can walk the line of. Like, you can find, what's the thing I can do that gets close to the line here? It's not actually crossing the line, right?
Yeah.
And, okay, so one person's going to complain. But not everyone is going to complain. Because what you're doing isn't objectively shitty. It's just, that was a little much, but it's fine. It's fine. And, like...
But it really is interesting, and I do think that it does very much come down to talent.
Yes,
right, and it's like because we got these two on stage, absolutely crushing it in a clean way, right? Yeah. And I think clean comedy probably the hardest thing, right? Like for
that's
very
thing, right. Vulgar comedy, offensive comedy, it's easy.
Well, oh, yeah, I want to get to that part in a second, though. So, like, they did great with the clean thing that works for television, right? And it was perfect. It was really, really funny. I had a blast every time. I couldn't wait for them to come back on screen. Whereas, like some award shows, I would cringe when the host would come back because I knew that they just didn't have this in their repertoire. But these guys were great, and they played off of each other, which was a lot of fun to watch. Like it was really well done, and it was very clean, and that I find that impressive, which made it that much more funny. Then there's like a John Mulaney who has a style of comedy that is the storytelling, right? Like he constructs this whole scenario and walks you through it and takes you on a journey. And I would say he's probably he's like an 80-20, like clean. Like he doesn't ever get overly vulgar or dirty, but he has moments or things he says. But then there's somebody like Anthony Jeselnik, who I think is hysterical, but the things that he says are absolutely awful. However, there's a difference between him and how he delivers something, and I think some things come off mean-spirited, where he is clearly trying to find the most outrageous thing that he could say in this moment that is still funny.
I'm not an expert. I have seen some of his stuff before, but if you just said Anthony Jeselnik, like, what's your impression? The first thing I would say is vulgar, not offensive, right? Like, I feel like that's the stuff he does more, but maybe
I think that he's intentionally offensive. Like goes like he'll because he says he does, he has maybe some vulgar, but like he will try to, like, he will say something that would be like, it's obviously offensive and obviously a joke. Right? It's just like the timing of it is not, for some reason, is not I don't know why he's able. For me, somebody that delivers the things that he's delivering normally, I'd just be like, like, not funny. But for some reason, he cracks me up.
Well, because you're talking about, at that point, you're talking about performance, right? When someone says a thing that is offensive, there are some comedians who do it, and it's like, this is coming off as mean-spirited because it feels like you're laughing at, versus there's sometimes, and his delivery is super dry at times, right? Or like, or maybe not
very, it is
dry, but I would say even more than like rye, I guess. And so in the delivery of it, you can see the wink, and it's like, okay, does this person feel? Because like there's some people who do it. It's like, oh, that's what you think, that's what you feel, or you're playing to someone who you think thinks or feels that. Versus when someone like him is doing it, it comes off to me as, oh, you don't actually believe that, but we're winking, we're laughing together about this. We're not laughing at that thing. That's
fair. That is actually, and that ties nicely with this thing that I just watched earlier today. It was like a short segment of an interview between Pete Holmes and Anthony Jeselnik, where Pete Holmes is basically like, you have your thing, you have your delivery, you have this like whole, I say horrible things, but like you're actually a very nice, sweet guy. And he's like, what have I done to make you think that? And because he was on the whole interview, and it was great. And he's like, well, one time he's like, Pete Holmes, like, I was on a show with you, and you sent me like a thank you note with a $1 bill in it. And he's like, I did do that. But you should, if you could find the clip, or if I could find it, I'll send it to you. But one of my favorite things was he was just jabbing at Pete the whole time, which if you're familiar with Pete Holmes interviewing other folks or talking to other comedians, he loves when they make fun of him. Like you could see, like he's genuinely thrilled when they make fun of him, right? And Pete Holmes was commenting on Anthony Jeselnik's clothes and how he looked so good, and like, man, like, you should have this show. And he goes, it would do better. And he was like, the way you dress, he's like, well, you're dressed like you're the CEO of a pumpkin patch. And he was so quick, but like even that, like that is a clean mean joke. Yeah. Right. I don't know what, like but it comes down to like his delivery, his timing, his ability to, I mean, he did that obviously on the fly in the situation. Like, he's got a talent for this thing. Yeah. And, but when he does his storytelling that ultimately ends in a usually horrible thing when he's going to say, the build up, the emotionless face, like there's a lot, he has crafted his persona like to a significant degree.
Yeah.
And it's like like you could see the attention to detail that went into like the style and like how he sticks to it. And I just find it impressive.
Yeah.
And like I know that comedy is not going to be for everybody. And I know there's only some people that I would like maybe share a clip of him to. But usually it's the people that I know that also appreciate stand-up comedy and can appreciate like what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I'll send you some things that I saw recently that were just. There was one thing like I was like I was so close to the line of like, oh, I don't want to laugh at this, but if you consider the the structure of what he put together, it's really good.
And that's the thing is like when there is a level of talent and care, and like I said, at a certain point, if you have done your job properly as a comedian, you can say something that's really fucked up, but you allow the audience the out of it doesn't feel like that's coming from your heart.
You're right.
And a lot of people who complain about, oh, you can't do comedy anymore, blah, 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 this and that. I don't think they always do a good job of crafting and delivering the joke in a way that makes you feel like this is a joke and not what you actually think.
Right.
And maybe that distinction doesn't work for everyone, and like everyone's entitled to their opinion on that. But like that's how I feel about it. Where and like I definitely did not always think this way when I was younger, when I was less in touch with what's the human experience is actually really like and what the world is really like and what things probably should be taboo and are not. Whether or not every single individual joke that people find to be offensive is something that I find to be offensive. A lot of times I can at least understand where people are coming from. Like, okay, I understand why you have a problem with that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I do think some of that shit needs to be cleaned up because like that is supposed to be the one unwritten rule of comedy is don't punch down, right?
Sure.
But if you're good enough, you can
craft
do it.
Something. Yeah.
You can craft and deliver it in a way that allows people the out of being like, oh, this isn't something you believe. This isn't something you're looking for approval on.
Right.
Because that's what the bad comedians do.
Yeah.
They are seeking the approval of the audience for the fucked up thing they said. Or they're revealing that that's how they think. Yeah. Versus someone who's...
There's something about them going like, right, to like...
Yes.
Something about them, you like in their quiet moment, they went, that's kind of funny. And then they wrote something and they delivered it.
Yes. And I think there is a distinction. In my opinion, there's a distinction there.
Yeah.
I understand how other people don't agree in it. Like they just don't want it at all. And that's fine. Like you cannot want that. You cannot want it. And
you can disengage from it. Yeah. For sure. But it's funny because like I think we're on the same page. And I think that like I know exactly what you're talking about and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for some reason, I don't think you could explain it to somebody if they don't already know what you're talking about. It's a hard thing, I feel like, to convey. Like it would be hard for me to give you two examples of people that I would assume, like, that somebody, let's say like you're talking to somebody that is easily offended by a stand-up comic, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like it would be hard to present two things that could be perceived as offensive and see if they find one not, and if so, like, figure out like what it is about, like have them like explain to you what it is about them, or would they find them both offensive? I don't know. I don't like it. It's just everyone's engaging with it on a level deeper than most people because I'm fascinated by the craft of stand-up comedy, like and that. So I think if you're not plugged into that like level of interest with it, I could see you being like, it's offensive. Yeah, you know, which is you know it's fair and whatever. Yeah. Anyway, back to the bagel nook for a second because I pulled out the menu. Okay. And I did forget about one thing. Mm-hmm. The other day, I got a rye bagel from them. Like this was like maybe a few weeks ago. Marble rye bagel, absolutely delicious, with a bacon scallion cream cheese. It was a delight. All right, now here's what I wanted to get to. They have these things called overloads. Okay. I'm going to read you the title of a few of them. You're going to pick one, and I'm going to read you what it is. Okay. They have the Oreo overload. You can stop me whenever you want to stop me. They have the Fruity Pebble overload. They have the Elvis. They have the Cocoa Puff overload. The Chocolate Fudge overload. The Triple Chocolate Chunk overload. Tell me about Elvis. The Elvis. Ooey gooey French toast bagel with peanut butter swirl cream cheese on both sides, freshly sliced bananas, and crispy bacon in the middle. So these are
dessert bagels?
These are just absolute disasters. Is what they are. For example, I would just like to read one more. The Cocoa Puff Bagel. Cocoa Puff Bagel. What? You have a Cocoa Puff Bagel with Nutella cream cheese on both? I like that they specify on both sides.
I would even wonder what's the point of doing Nutella cream cheese? Just put Nutella on it.
Right. Okay, they have a Flaming Hot Cheetos overload. There's a Flaming Hot Cheetos bagel with ghost pepper cream cheese and Flaming Hot Cheetos in the middle. I
had some habanero jack cheese the other day. It's pretty spicy, pretty delicious.
Other cream cheese options: Cool Ranch, jalapeno cheddar, blazing ranch, and bacon cheddar. What do you guys? They have a cannoli donut overload. I'm done here.
That actually sounds pretty good.
This is just they have like these ridiculous things.
Like yeah, those sound more like donuts than they do bagels.
Absolutely, but they also have the spicy sunrise, which is maybe the most amazing thing I've ever eaten. Anyway, Emmys. I think it was just whatever. The Emmys are the Emmys. Like the people that won, you kind of knew they were going to win. It was I feel like it was a pretty consistent 3 shows that were winning all the awards.
It was basically Bear, Hacks, and Shogun, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly. You got it. You saw the Emmys. And for me though, it was the presentation. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I was like, oh, are we back to these being fun to watch again?
Mm.
There was also a really funny moment where a gentleman named Will Smith won an Emmy.
Oh,
not that Will Smith, and he did make a statement like, "Oh, it'll be less violent, I promise." When he got out there, which I appreciated. I also thought it would have been even better if they had if the presenter of the award was friendly with him and he could have slapped him. That would have been funny to me if they could have done that. But they
just the presenter is giving the award, he just walks up and he goes to smack
corrects him. Oh man, that's terrible. Anything else for consumption?
No, I think that's all the big stuff.
All right. Well, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, released in 2024, rated R, with a 2-hour and 28-minute runtime. Your IMDb synopsis: the origin story of renegade warrior Furiosa before her encounter and team up with Mad Max. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. Why don't you give me let's start off with our Toot-lengths. What do you got for me?
I don't think you could outdo Fury Road, and this movie is wise not to try. And structuring this entirely differently than that movie. A cool project in this world with slightly deceptive marketing, but these movies are meant to have a good time when they're not utterly depressing you. 7.5 out of 10.
Ooh, we're on point with the scores. Thanks to the annoying internet, I went into Furiosa with low expectations and came out with high praise. 7.5 out of 10. I feel like there was general negativity surrounding this movie and the announcements and the trailer and people getting bitchy about
Anthony, it's a movie starring a woman.
Right. I forget that is what's right. I do forget that is fuck the world, right? Anyway, this movie is a lot of fun. It's a very I remember there being a lot of commentary around the effects and people being kind of up in arms about the level of practical effects in Fury Road versus what was going to be going on in this movie.
Well, I said something about that to you when the trailer came out. I said, "Oh, it looks interesting. I liked Fury Road. They had always made it out like they were going to do more with at least those 2 leads, and I think that everyone was so soured on the making of that movie experience that they couldn't get the 2 of them to come back and work. I mean, the 2 of them basically hated each other, and by the end of the marketing tour had kind of more or less apologized to each other. It's I'm sorry that I was so shitty. Both of them had a version of that they said to each other, I think. That what we just did was hell, and I just don't think they wanted to do that again. And I think that considering, and we've talked about that in the past with that movie, and there's a lot of reporting that's been done on the making of that movie, and not just the literal on-set making of the movie, but what it took to get to the point to even start shooting that movie, how long it took to get all the authorizations and the funding and the cast and the insurance and all that sort of stuff, and the starting and stopping, and it took them years to make that movie. To actually, from concept of we have a script and we want to make this movie to when the movie was done being made was years.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just were like, we'll never make a movie again if we try to do it that way.
Sure.
I thought what they did with the first one, with the last one, was so incredible, and it's very obvious that they did not do that to 100% with this. Yeah. There's certainly some of it.
A good amount
is practical.
Yeah.
But it's pretty obvious some of the scenes where it's like, this is not.
Absolutely, and it does lean into the CG more so than the areas of Fury Road that do. And to the point where maybe budget and effects wise, it wasn't up to par for the areas that were.
I don't even think that was the issue. I think literally they would not have been able to make the movie. I don't think it was cost; it was practicality.
Like, I know. I'm saying, but the special effects that they did that were clearly not practical could have been a little bit more polished.
I mean, I thought some of them were good. Not all of them, but quite a lot of them were good. Mm-hmm. To me, it's just I was spoiled by that movie. And I wanted it to be like that in the sense of like how it was made. I understand why it wasn't, but it is noticeable.
Sure. No, and I agree. But and I do think there is something to the storytelling mechanics of Fury Road that lends itself better to the practical than this does, like where you can kind of keep it consistent in like the design language of like what's happening because it is just a long chase sequence.
I was really also like specific to this movie. I was really concerned that my fears were going to be worse than I thought because the very opening sequence is so obviously CG that I was like, oh man, if it's like this the whole movie.
No.
Oh no. Thankfully it wasn't.
Yeah,
but
it does not.
That whole sequence, like how it was shot and like with like the aspect and like the depth perception and like the color was like so weird. Yeah. Like the girl up on the plateau with the grass and like the people running around underneath and like the trees and all that and like going out into the desert was just like, yikes.
Yeah. I will say I really, one of the things that made me really enjoy the movie was the difference in the mechanism for storytelling. Like I just mentioned, like in Fury Road being like, it's a snapshot, and it's like a small piece of time that the entire movie takes place in.
Yeah, the whole movie takes place over the course of like 36 hours.
Right. Whereas this movie is stretched over years and we'll focus in on different points throughout those years. And in such a way, it was like...
And doing it episodically was actually like... Even if it wasn't the fact that there was time jumps, the fact that it was literally like broken out into chapters where each one was a snippet of a specific point in time along this woman's story...
Mm-hmm.
I thought that did such a good job of distancing itself from the last movie.
Yeah,
I view that as a positive. Where it's like I won't be confused that you were like, oh, let's just do Furiosa, like let's just do Fury Road again.
Like, Furiosa Road,
Furiosa, like because you can't do that movie again. It was such a part of the reason it's so good is because of how unique it was, and trying to copy that in any way was only going to doom itself to failure. And by choosing to break this up into these vignettes, I thought that was a really smart thing to do.
I completely agree. I enjoyed. I was eating up like every segment of it, and it became very apparent to me in watching this. Like, I know we may have talked about this with Fury Road, but the world building in this universe rivals John Wick.
They're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, it's so well realized, and it does a really great similar to John Wick in its execution. It does the thing of like, just here is a piece of what's happening, and it's like you don't need like it to be overly explained. You don't need anything like, and watch what's happening. Got it. And like they've established that, and what makes it work is that everybody on screen knows what's happening.
Yeah, and
that gives you kind of like that buy-in of like, is this what's happening? And because they're not questioning it, you no longer question it, and that just becomes what it is. And it's just so well executed.
I also think they did a really good job of walking that line of like trusting anyone who's here to watch this movie, who's watched any of the other movies, knowing what's going on versus being able to explain it to a newcomer without it like aggravating like the established fans. Where it's like, new character on screen, it's a Morton Joe.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Because if you're a newcomer, it's like, okay, I mean, he's clearly the leader and his name's Morton Joe. Great.
Yeah.
And for someone who already knows that's a Morton Joe, it's like, Well, I can concede to you that you have to literally tell someone watching for the first time, "Hey, that's a Morton Joe."
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's fair. But done in a good way, because like also like this is our characters, our lead's introduction to this person that they know very well in the previous film. Yeah, the character designs are so wacky.
Yeah,
I just love how bizarre this whole thing is.
Even if you look at just like the leadership, right? Morton Joe, he's got this weird bodysuit thing. He's got the mask with the teeth.
Some sort of Bane respirator thing.
Darth Vader, who knows, like, sort of respirator thing. And then you have the people leader who's in like a fucking like mid 20th century like 3-piece British suit with like a pocket watch, but also he's got whatever like accoutrement of like ridiculousness from like
the gold nose thing.
Yeah, from a barren wasteland as well. And
yeah.
I mean, like, to have those two people like be able to stand next to each other in a scene and for it to somehow make some sort of insane sense.
Right. And there's some sort of established order. What? Yeah. What are you talking about? Why? Why does this work? And I'm like, because it does. And you're like, okay. Like, they're like, it works. Here's reasons. It's like, they got water. Problem solved.
Yeah, water, bullets, and gas. The only three things that matter.
I love, so, what are the, Morton Joe's, that's the Citadel?
Yeah.
And then it's Gas Town.
Yep.
Right? We gave up on fancy names. This one's the Gas Town.
But there's also the Bullet Farm, isn't there?
That's the Bullet Farm in the Citadel. Why is that not Waterworld? I don't know.
Bullets grow on trees, obviously.
Obviously. But it's the world. The world is so cool. And then like also they get into like the trade mechanics and the economics of this ridiculous wasteland, which is just really like more attention has gone into this than you would think it warrants.
Well, at the end of the day, food and water, bullets and gas. That's all you need.
That's all you need. It's the essence of life. And like just also there's something funny to me about like the skills of like these gearheads that are they're able to pull together like these giant rigs and the mechanics of all these trucks and stuff. Like there's something fascinating about that to me too, that where they don't explain it, but it's basically like a religion.
It's like this guy doesn't know how to read, and yet he can graft these incredibly complicated and powerful machines onto each other to create some ungodly but incredibly functional thing.
Yeah. And I like one of the things that I really liked about kind of the building of the Citadel in this, because it's like you're talking about a group of people, Dementis and his crew, who are coming into contact with this other group of people, like Morton Joe and the War Boys, for the first time, right? Yeah. So they don't know who they are. We know who they are because we watched the previous movie. And in the previous movie, they were just established. They didn't explain them then either. But I loved the concept of like, pick one of our guys. And they're like, that one. And they, silver spray can, witness me, jumps into the crowd and explodes. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It's also the ultimate flex too, right? It's like, oh, you guys are going to come challenge us?
Yeah.
Pick any guy. He'll kill himself immediately. It's fine.
Yeah. And after he does it, he's like, you could have picked any one of them and they would have done the same thing. It's like, first off, what? Also,
and second of all, I believe you.
How was that message conveyed with pick one of my guys? They knew that that's what they had to do. They know. They don't fuck around.
Yeah.
They witness me.
Yeah.
Crazy. Furiosa.
Mm-hmm.
We get the introduction of this character as a younger child, abducted by Dementis and Co.
Yes.
Mother tortured and killed
pretty brutally.
And then Dementis trying his best hand at like Stockholm Syndrome, trying to make it like he's taking care of this girl.
By way of hook?
Yeah. Also, the teddy bear thing. I don't know why I found it so funny, but I did.
I got major hook vibes.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. It's so bizarre. But do we know the actress's name that played the younger Furiosa?
No idea.
Alila? Alyla.
Okay.
Alila?
No idea.
Alila Brown?
Bueller?
Young Furiosa. To be younger Furiosa.
Mm.
So, because we got young Furiosa was. Wow, that's funny that their first names have very similar letters. Anya Taylor-Joy. So our does Alila? I don't think young Furiosa. Does she ever say a word? I'm trying to recall back to watching.
I mean, she definitely does in the opening scene when she tells the younger sister.
Oh, right, she does. Yeah, but then she basically remains mute, like once picked up, until
she screams to the mother when the mother dies. She says something at some point. They said something along the lines of like, "This one doesn't talk," and like she says something.
She says something. Yeah, she says something to Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
When Dementis is like, "She's my child," and he's like, "Is this your dad?" And she says, "No."
But not only that, like
that
when she like ingratiates, and I gotta be honest, I didn't actually fall asleep, but I was on the brink of falling asleep. I did not fully process how she ended up with Immortan Joe. Like I remember like they're there for the big tete-a-tete. Warboy jumps off the thing. They start just fucking them all up.
Yeah.
Dementis has her.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how he ended
up. Oh, okay. So they end up back at the Citadel at some point for a demanded meeting where Dementis takes over Gastown and then goes back to the Citadel and says, "We want double what you were. We want double for we own Gastown now. We want double what you were originally paying. If you want to maintain the gas product that you were receiving." And they agree to giving them 1/3 more, and they keep Furiosa.
So I probably did actually doze off for 5 minutes because I have no memory of that meeting. I just remember.
Oh, okay.
They were like there was that.
Oh, there was a really ridiculous sequence at that meeting where where Dementis has some weird contraption with basically like a harpoon at the back of the former leader of Gastown's head, but it's attached to his nipples, so that he I guess to prevent him from letting it go, because it's going to rip his nipples off if he lets go of it. And then ultimately he lets go of it, and he talks about how it was such a rush. It's a very ridiculous sequence. Chris Hemsworth, fantastic in this movie. So ridiculous.
It was interesting seeing him play a villain.
Yeah. Like
an out-and-out villain, like the closest thing. He's not like actually a villain, but he plays like the bad boy was in Rush. Like that's the closest I've ever really seen to him not playing the hero.
Sure.
And to see him play
That's what heroes do.
To see him playing an out-and-out, like revolting, vile villain in this.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's having fun doing it.
He seemed like he was having a really good time.
Good for him.
Yeah. But I like the relationship that forms between Furiosa and Dementis. He covets the character. He covets Furiosa, but Furiosa's like, I'm going, like, at some point,
I am going to kill you.
Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. I'm going to kill you. And she's like driven by that rage, and like that's like she's determined. I don't know. I found that so interesting, and also like reasonable based on like the circumstances, right? Like it just makes, I feel like that's what makes it so much easier to kind of accept, and is like they built this scenario where it's like, yeah, like obviously.
I will say I thought the younger actress did a pretty good job. I felt a little betrayed. It took about half the movie for Anya Taylor-Joy to show up.
Oh yeah. I was surprised by that too. I was like, because we get like 2, maybe 3 chapters.
It's at least 3. There's the opening chapter that leads into that whole chase thing. There's the one where she's like the whole Stockholm syndrome thing. And then there's a whole chapter with like the lead up to them going to the Citadel. So it's at least the first 3 chapters, if I'm not missing another chapter within there.
When I liked I thought it was interesting, like shaving her head and then creating a wig for the sole purpose of escape. And it's like she like knew the exact scenario that was going to happen. Like it's that bit of it was a little bit far fetched, but like the actual purpose behind her shaving her head was so that she could then blend blend in as one of like the gearheads.
Well, part of the whole thing, right, was like she's pretending to be a war boy. Which,
not a war boy, but one of the mechanics.
Yeah, I get
the war boys. The war boys are all
specifically
deformed, right?
Yeah, like, the deformed like white skin, like specifically like dyed white or painted white, whatever skin. But even before she went the mechanic, when they like have her like working on like the as like the sentry or whatever, like all those jobs are supposed to be like they weren't one of the war boys, but like they were like specifically had to be like boys and men, and she's trying to pretend to be a boy to be in that role.
Yeah, so that's actually one thing that I had a question about. So that's how I understood it. But then let's jump ahead a little bit.
It doesn't come out that she's a girl until she saves the day on the rig.
Right. And I guess at that point, because
she had proven her competence.
They just and that's where I guess that's
because the driver,
that makes sense.
I forget what the driver's name was.
Praetorian Jack.
That's it, Praetorian Jack. He is just like, I don't give a shit what she is. I'm your best driver. I want her. She's proven herself.
Right, and
that immediately gives her status.
Right, and then when she goes back, she says, "I'm the Praetorian Furiosa."
Yes.
So I guess that's like what the level that she's earned.
Yeah,
like
that title
in their structure.
Yeah,
it's really the whole, and that's the thing that I'm talking about. Like that all of it, the hierarchy. Like there's levels of it that we probably don't even know about, but like they did a really good job of like, okay, these people do that, like, and like that kind of like oil like painted on their forehead. Like I guess it was kind of like a symbol of the Praetorians potentially, like because they were the only ones that I saw that drove the rigs.
Yes,
right. It was just really cool. The peach pit.
Mm-hmm.
Is that seed viable at this point? I mean, I know they pretended that it was, but like she's been holding on. How do seeds work?
So it is different depending on what type of plant it is, and I think stone fruits, those stones are more resilient than most other seeds do, because I think they basically have to like be like cracked open and like activated essentially to start growing a tree. Like I think those things,
because you would crack that and then put the seed that's inside of that shell in the ground.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is why they last so long. Like the stone itself is meant to like preserve it long term if it doesn't fall into like the proper like habitat to like promote.
So she had it in her hair, and then she shaved her head, and she puts it in her mouth and her cheek, right? Until her hair grows back, is that part of the level of her being mute, or is it so that she doesn't show her hand that she's female?
It's probably a bit of all of the above. Like,
so she, as a discipline, she kept the seed in her mouth so that she didn't.
It was also the most secure place. Like she literally could not misplace it there.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was interesting that I did like. I thought it was interesting, but I also liked that they kept going back to it, like showing that she still had it, and the fact that she's still holding on to this, because it was like she's got two goals at this point. It's like, first, I'm gonna kill the son of a bitch. Second, I'm going home. I'm gonna go plant this seed. Fuck the plant.
I was thinking it too.
But yes, she's hell bent on revenge. So okay, I want to Furiosa and Praetorian Jack. Great character relationship between the two of them, right? Like the realization that she's on the rig. She's trying to escape at that point, but she's on the rig, and then she's in the moment with all of the chaos going on. Knows that her best bet to survive this and ultimately achieve her goals, I'm gonna have to like show my hand and get involved, because these fools are not going to get out of this alive, right? And she takes the wheel, and she takes care of a bunch of these fools that are trying to take them over. Praetorian Jack recognizes like her skill set and then vouches for her, right? And she becomes that whole thing was great. And then it dawned on me, I was like, I feel like Praetorian Jack is a better Mad Max than Mad Max in Fury Road. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but like the character had more substance, and it was just overall I found him more interesting than Max in Fury Road.
I don't know. I mean, I actually kind of viewed them pretty similarly. I guess it's a little different because I've never actually watched any of the original ones. I know you have, so
a long time ago. But anyway, Dementis, I think it was really funny. Like the other two houses are like, this guy, he has no grip on on his people or the gas hound, and we fully rely on him. They're like, this is insane. And then the realization that he's also like, in their desperation, they've taken Bullet Farm, and like they have the whole set. Like the whole sequence was bananas. Like the ambush at Bullet Farm, and then like the daring escape, and then going back, or Furiosa going back for Praetorian Jack. Like the whole thing was very exciting to watch, and like really well executed. And like I think about like game design, like how like a really well made multiplayer map can make or break the experience of a multiplayer game, like of a Halo, right? Like, some Halo games are better than others, and some Halo maps are just like, they stand out as like, they stand the test of time. They're still great to play today. Multiplayer. Something about the way they constructed the entire landscape of that, like clearly every piece of it was designed for this sequence, right? Yeah. But it works also as like, it kind of like makes sense the way that they have it based on like how they're farming and what they're doing, but also like so well, like the ramps and the machinery and like the lava pits, like all of it was just like so cool. Like it was such a crazy set design,
and how it was set up for different things, right? The whole the idea of setting it up for this whole trap ambush thing, but also to be able to set up for a massive set piece battle, like on the other end of it, and like how those two things like work.
Like really, like just really well realized. And one of the coolest like super tense sequences being the like the sniper standoff. I think that was a really, like, it lasted a little bit long, also, and I'm realizing in that moment
his incredibly fucked up way of getting out of it.
Oh my god, it's so ridiculous. But I'm realizing the whole time watching, like, I so want her to get revenge, but I'm not ready for ridiculous Chris Hemsworth to go.
Yeah,
right. I feel like you're juggling those two things. It's like I hit pause just to see how much was left of the movie, and it's like, okay, he's not done yet. We're gonna have some more fun with him. And the monster truck was bananas. So he breaks down the gate after and then like we have that whole sequence of like driving through the desert and the monster truck, and then all is lost at this point. Furiosa and Praetorian Jack are caught. They're kind of toying with him, dragging him around in circles for God knows how long. All the while, I guess nobody's watching Furiosa, which is interesting. I mean,
well, you got the sense that like his rage has gotten him to this point of like doing all of this.
Sure.
But even he realizes like, I am actually losing it. Like my rage felt righteous, but like whatever edge I had on these people with my like level of planning and my level of shock and awe factor, and like how like the surprise factor can actually be played in my favor, and like he's got to the point now where it's like I'm just consumed by the rage thing. Like, this is totally a boondoggle. I've lost so many people. I've thrown even more people like this. For what exactly? Like I already have control of a lot of stuff. Like, am I going to get control of all three of these things? Like I'm going after clearly what is the most important and most difficult thing to get. That was the only real battle he had lost to that point, was like the route at the Citadel when he's there. And I'm just enacting petty revenge in my rage. This isn't accomplishing anything. I'm surrounded by my true believers. This isn't like gaining people to my side or even reinforcing. Right. Like these people are going to die for me anyway. They've proven that. I'm not getting any closer to my goal. Like, because they show that there's that scene where you lose total like concept of what's going on around as like they're torturing him, and the camera's like zooming in on him, and you see his face like he's chasing in that point. He's on full tilt. Like he's doing this almost out of like reactionary fears, not out of any sort of strategic or tactical thinking. It's just pure like getting his rage out. And in that, he loses what he was like trying to go. Although he doesn't even realize what he's going after, because at that point, he hasn't made the connection that she is the girl that he had all those years ago.
Right. It's funny that like that realization doesn't happen until like the very end for him.
Yeah. Also, genuinely shocking. Like, of course, this whole movie, you're wondering, so how does she lose her arm?
Yeah.
And for that to be the way, and
she 127 hours is it?
Not even, because I don't.
It got mangled.
I don't think she cut it off. I think she just yanked the rest of her arm off.
She yanked it.
Well, think about it. What would she have cut it off with? She was shackled.
Did she have her boot knife? I guess they would have taken it.
Even if they didn't, I don't think that little knife would have really worked.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Cutting through the fucking humerus
But you know what makes Furiosa so badass is that not only did she yank her arm off, but with her other arm, she managed to completely dismantle, like self-destruct the monster truck, which I thought was such a cool thing.
Oh yeah, by tying up her shackle to it and all that.
Yeah, right? And then he starts to drive away, and the wheels just plop right off, and he's just like, "Fuck!" that was great. Also, let's circle back for a second. The giant rig and the bum. But what do they call that thing on the back? That was such a fun.
Oh yeah, it was like the Booba car or something like that, or like
I don't know.
Bumper.
I can't remember the name of it, but like that giant whipping those metal balls, or like it was basically like 3 or 4 like maces on the back of a spinning disc on the. That was really cool, and also like the fun that they had deploying it, especially with another really cool thing. The Dementis is like, I don't know, not right hand, but like almost like another faction, I guess, that was kind of like with them-ish. The guy that had like the horns and the bike with the fan and the giant parachute. The flying bike guy.
Yeah.
When his whole thing gets caught up in that, it was just awesome.
Yeah. Also, to that point, I wasn't actually sure who was attacking them until I saw him, and I was like, oh, okay, this is Dementis' people.
Yeah. That was what that made for some, that bike with that like weird like jellyfish parachute thing, that made for some really cool visuals, like it flying through the air and like that giant massive black parachute with like the tendrils coming off of it.
Yeah,
I really liked that whole thing. Like that character was so bizarre and like so kind of creepy. It's with his weird horns. I don't know, the whole movie is so weird and I love it. I just love how ridiculous it is. I don't remember. What was Praetorian Jack's fate?
He died.
They dragged him around, but they don't. That was like the end of what we see of him, right?
Yeah, he dies.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I knew that, but like, how? Like, did they just do that until he died, or did they do something to him that I don't remember?
I forget. I want to say there's a name for that, but that's one of those like old, like punishment / death things. Like I remember, like that was like a thing in like the Old West. Like they would tie you to the back of a horse and they would just go until, and they did in Game of Thrones too. The Dothraki did it as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just keep going until they can't keep up with it anymore. And like, yeah, you just basically get like torn to shreds by that. And especially if you do it in like that version where you start going really fast, obviously getting dragged at like high speed is eventually going to be, but it's to an extent, it's almost kind of like if you look at like those ancient like punishments, like something like crucifixion, like it works similarly, right? Where when you lose your feet, the whole thing is once you lose your feet, you don't have a chance because they don't stop. Mm-hmm. You know, you're getting dragged, and it's not just the ground hitting you or scraping you, like because your arms are getting pulled out up above your head, like you essentially will probably asphyxiate at a certain point because of the way your arms are up above, and like you'll no longer be able to use your diaphragm properly to like draw breath anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's a pretty tough way to go.
Rip. So we carry on.
Sorry, I'm pretty mad. I was looking really quick while we were talking, and for me to actually get you an answer, I'm going to have to take a lot longer to look into. Oh, sorry, here it is. Just totally found this by accident now. The swimming ball is known as the Bommy Knocker.
Bommy Knocker.
I was like, it was something fucking weird that was like not words.
The names of things in this universe. Okay, actually, let me go through some of these characters. So we have Furiosa, Dementis, ridiculous name. Praetorian Jack, young Furiosa. We have the History Man. That was an interesting character. Like he looked like the why can't I think of it? Rebecca Ferguson's character in Dune 2. What she like? He's got like the tattoos all over.
Similar
his
aesthetic.
He holds the history.
Also, not just a similar aesthetic, similar role too, right? They're meant to be kind of like their shaman almost.
Yeah. Got a Morton Joe, the People Eater, Organic Mechanic. When they said that, I was like, oh, for some reason, this one makes me very unsettled.
Great name.
Why is she pale? Oh, it's because I've been using her blood for sausages. Nope, don't like this.
The two sons being named Rictus, Erectus, and Scrotus is pretty great.
It's pretty great and pretty terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We got Toe Jam. We got Smeg, the Octoboss. Is that the guy that was with the bike and the? I don't know who the Octoboss would be.
I don't remember.
But yeah, there's just such ridiculous names. So okay, so going back to Furiosa.
Do you know who the Octoboss was? I don't even remember seeing this guy's. Oh, okay, I'm seeing a picture of him now. He was
it is him.
The tall guy from Hacksaw Ridge, the one that like they kept making fun of that he looked like a corpse.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, but he is the guy that I was thinking of. He's the guy that had the horns with the.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm looking. So I just saw his face and I was like, oh yeah, that does look like him. Not that I would have recognized him without knowing that with his facial hair.
Right.
All, but I see his helmet with the horns now that I zoomed in.
What a ridiculousness.
Also, Hacksaw Ridge throwback to original recording.
What was the Papa
of the show. Papa Doss?
Papa Doss. Oh my god. The early days of Flix in the Six. So Furiosa finally fulfills her mission of killing Dementis, which is a great. I mean, I think that was a really cool character sequence. Like hunting down the three people, realizing that like he actually split off and he's disguising himself, like figuring out which one's which, and then
I love how the ability to fire a sniper rifle is clearly genetic in that world. Where like her mother and her are like,
you know how it works, ridiculous
shots, because it's not like she could have been like training at that when she was a kid,
right?
You know, like, she's just a fucking expert at it.
It's just that she really needed it to work. That's what it comes down to.
I love like how many times like someone just gets fucking ridiculously sniped from like a mile away while they're running across sand
dunes and wind.
Sand dunes and wind and fucking motorcycles.
Yep. It makes for some great watching, though.
It does. And there were some great, like, clever ways that, like, some of those, like, these, like, when, like, someone would, like, sabotage a vehicle, or we're going to take a piece off of this vehicle and do this with that vehicle.
The mechanics of the scavenging, right?
Yeah.
Like, that bike's gone, but it is very important. It is worth the risk for us to grab the gas tank and the good wheel.
Yeah.
Like, I think that stuff was really
and the fact that we're, like, racing these things at fucking speed in these terrains, and we can just pop one, like, cotter pin.
Thunder bike?
But we can just pop one cotter pin out, wheel comes off, pops right on, cotter pin back in, totally fine.
Right. Oh, man. We found that we get that showdown, which is not really a showdown. It's just basically...
I love the psychological torture she enacts on him, where she's, like, chasing him with the car, and then, like, is, like, backing away from him, and, like... It was kind of surreal. It reminded me of the opening scene of Super Troopers when they're chasing the guys who are like high, and they're like doing the thing with like there's two cars, but they think it's just one car chasing them, and it's like chasing them super fast, and then it's chasing them in slow motion, and then it's race past them, and there's reverse the way back. And
I'm freaking out, man.
That's what it reminded me of. Was like the head game she's playing with the stupid car.
I did love like the way that finally comes to an end, like with almost like the narration over it, but the like he's like, well, at least you look me in the eye or whatever, and then she's like, no, like she stands behind him and she waits forever to pull the trigger. Like that is sadistic. Like,
or did she?
What do you mean?
Well, she like. There's the whole thing of like whether like the narration even says like, did she kill him? Did she this him? Did she that him? She's dragged him with the car. She shot him, and then she plants him. She plants him
with the peach pit in his scrotus.
Yeah,
in his erectus.
No, I doubt he was erectus.
Rictus erectus scrotus.
Rictus for sure, not erectus.
But that was actually you know what was kind of cool about that? Yeah, like that. Like was it this or that? The sequence of him, of like showing him like kind of withered away but alive, and the plant growing out of him. It was very like, I don't know, like Greek mythology, like the way that like it was just like it just seems like something out of Greek mythology.
That definitely makes sense. Although my first thought went straight to Annihilation, the tree people or the flower people.
Oh my god, I forgot about the tree people and Man Bear Pig.
Man, Bear, Pig.
The movie's sick.
Or as me and Gianna call it, Demon Bear.
Demon Bear. Demon Bear was twisted.
It was great considering, there's the Annihilation sound, which you made earlier, and which we both love.
Yeah. Demon Bear should have made an appearance in Civil War.
At a certain point, she was doing Demon Bear.
Nice. I like that. The other thing that I think is really cool. So we know she's got a two-phased mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this whole time. It is kill this son of a bitch, get back home and plant the peach pit. Mm-hmm. Right? That's kind of the mission. I like that this movie actually ended up being just the first part of that mission, leading directly into her loading the rig with the wives, going on to the second part of her mission, which is Fury Road. Which also makes sense because she can't go back home for Fury Road to make any sense, right? The whole point is that she has to have many years before she can actually succeed in doing that. Right, but I think they did a really. I just think they did it really well. Actually, sequencing it and getting, and then even going so far as to kind of showing them loading the rig, in the final sequence of the movie. The nod to Mad Max and is the one I guess that drags her back to the Citadel when she's passed out in the desert. I think that's kind of cool, and in playing with this the story of Mad Max is kind of just this legend character.
Wait, what do you mean?
So when she is on her way after, when she escapes, I'm trying to figure out which sequence this was in. I think it's when she escapes with her arm ripped off on the bike. She makes her way pretty much away from everybody and gets all the way back, and she kind of falls in the desert, and they pull back, and it's Mad Max looking down on her from the ridge, and then they cut to black, and they cut again, and she's back at the Citadel in one of the tunnels with the weird creepy maggot lady.
I forgot that there was... I forgot about that transition. Or maybe I remember that happening, but I forgot that we didn't get a quote unquote payoff to who that was.
Yeah, well, I think that's his car. So that the implication is that,
okay.
That's I forget what they call it. The something.
It definitely has a name. I don't remember what
it has a name. That's his car, and that's him. That's his style.
Yeah, I didn't process that at that point.
But at first I was like, they didn't need to show him. This was
well, frankly, it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It doesn't, no. But then I thought it's actually kind of cool,
which is probably part of why I didn't make that connection at that point.
But then I started to think it's actually kind of cool in the way that they're kind of reframing the Mad Max character, from the perspective of Fury Road. Of Fury Road is also a Furiosa movie. It's not a Mad Max movie.
Yeah,
so much. It's her story. But he's. Just the legend of this character in this world that pops in and out at times of need. I think that's a cool thing to. In hindsight, at first I was like, meh, why do this? And then in thinking back on it, it's kind of like the idea of he's kind of involved in every major thing that's happening in some way or another.
He always seems to somehow be inserted into a spot, and he's a force multiplier and does some stuff for good, and then he moves on. He's a shogun or a hedge knight or a knight errant or whatever you want to call it. Kind of roaming the world and showing up and doing his thing for 5 minutes and then going on about his life.
Yeah. No, that was pretty, in hindsight, I think that was pretty cool, even if I didn't love it at first when I saw it. I've been itching to get, I have the Mad Max game that came out on the PS4 era consoles, and I've been meaning, I only played it for a little bit, and I remember being very cool, but getting sidetracked by some other game. I actually think it got taken over by Arkham Knight, for me, when that came out, because obviously Batman. And I never went back to it. I've been itching. I think I want to get back to it and actually play that game. I remember it being pretty cool. I'll let you know if I do.
I forgot that they made a game.
Yeah, but very cool. Any other thoughts on Furiosa? A Mad Max saga?
No, I think we had all the big stuff.
Cool. Well, that's all for this week's episode of Flix and a Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to discuss, what a movie for us to review or nuggets for us
or
to
discuss.
Send those requests. Yeah, we can discuss it. Send those requests to flixinthesix@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness with Civil War. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Biolsi.
Thanks for coming out.